was spread around to elicit the interest of almost 90 faculty members who are willing to join hands, work on various collaborative projects. Some 2 years ago, we decided to organize ourselves centers of excellence. I'll give this list of 11 such centers: telemedicine and robotics. Dr. S.K. Mishra has been with us right from the first step, all the discussions. Whatever I say will be. Telemedicine and robotics, AI in healthcare, non-invasive imaging and diagnostics, cardiovascular, pulmonary diseases, neuroscience, neurotechnology, and mental health, cancer research, orthopedics, therapeutics, tropical and infectious diseases, metabolic disorders, point of care. Each of them has a group of 10 to 15 academics. Centers are led by coordinators and co-coordinators. So in one of the advisory group meetings, it was pointed out that doctors keenly await technologies to emerge from institutions like IIT Kanpur. So with that understanding, the institute decided to support flagship projects that are really technology demonstrators. 6 plus 1, I should say 7 such projects are ongoing at the moment. So Professor Ganpati was involved in shortlisting those projects. Do you remember? Yeah, so if anybody is left out, it's because of him. So these projects are percutaneous mechanical circulatory support system, rapidly deployable cardiac twin, design and development of autonomous stairs and escalator climbing and self-navigating smart wheelchair, non-invasive imaging and diagnostics for an optical fiber-based endoscope, 3D printed porous interbody spacer for spinal deformity, technology platform for rapid and total eradication of tropical gram-negative bacteria via plasmonic heating. So all these projects have a product at the end of 2 years, if not a market-ready product, at least a proof of concept. These projects have gone into their second year now. One more project, which is on left ventricular assist device, has completed nearly 2 years and will shortly go for animal trials. So these projects by and large are supported by the institute itself. So in addition, we have been developing fabrication infrastructure called the MedTech Center. Generous amount of space and a whole lot of equipment have been procured, will be procured, and will be set up in the Diamond Jubilee Academic Complex. Similarly, we have a whole collection of software packages and simulation platforms using which the initial designs of all these products can be carried out. So combining these centers and flagship projects, I would say we have around 10 to 11 postdocs working with us and maybe around 20 more project employees working in individual areas. These projects are distributed over the institute. They're not all in one place. But as the school comes up, they will all congregate into a single area. So through sponsored projects, funding of around 100 crores has been secured, including funding agencies like DST, DBT, Ministry of Textiles, and also the alumni. So R&D is, I would say, extremely vigorous at the moment, and hopefully, as we go into the future, the number of projects and number of activities and products that we can demonstrate will all appear on the scene. So we promise you an exciting time ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Muralidhar. Now I Professor Bandyopadhyay to say a few words on the research and development that is being carried out at COAs at GSMST.
First of all, I'm awfully sorry that I was not here in the entire proceedings from the morning. I am leaving on 7th, so a whole lot of workload that I must take care of before I leave. So, sorry, I got completely occupied. Professor Muralidhar talked about the R&D work that is going on at Gangwal School. There isn't much that I can add. All I can say is that it is going really well, full tempo, and hopefully good things will come soon. Today, as Professor Ganesh pointed out, that we are here for a very important aspect of Gangwal School's overall ambit, that is of telemedicine, because as Professor Mishra knows, as Professor Muralidhar pointed out, that Professor S.K. Mishra has been with this initiative from day one. So in the very beginning of this initiative of Gangwal School, we laid out that one of our objectives is to reach out to the small towns and villages of India to take IIT Kanpur technologies to these places. And for that, we have a vertical for telemedicine. And both Professor Mishra and Professor Ganpati joined such a conference at our Noida campus. And it was attended by many luminaries in the field. So, and there I learned that they are called the two fathers of telemedicine in India. So we are indeed privileged to have them both as distinguished visiting professors of IIT Kanpur. I learned later about Professor Jagdish Srivastava, and very happy to have you amongst us. And now my job is to introduce, who needs no introduction in this gathering, is Professor Ganpati. Professor Ganpati is a distinguished visiting professor of the Gangwal School of Medical Sciences and Technology. He is the director of Apollo Telemedicine Networking Foundation, the largest and oldest multi-speciality telemedicine network in South Asia. He is the past president of the Telemedicine Society of India and the Indian Society of Stereotactic and Functional Neurosurgery. He has been an adjunct professor at the IIT Madras, Tamil Nadu Medical University, and Anna University. Today, he will give his talk on this topic. The title is Status of Telemedicine in India and World. I request you to kindly come to the stage and deliver your address.
Thank you, Professor Bandyopadhyay.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I wish to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. 2000 seconds is obviously too short a time to talk about delivering technology-enabled remote healthcare to 8 billion people. That is a topic I have been given, telemedicine in India and around the world. Before I try to condense what I think are the important parts, let's be sure we are on the same page. To me, I personally like the word telehealth rather than telemedicine because in 2025 and in the years to come, the emphasis is going to be on deployment of technology to keep all of you healthy and well. A corporate hospital, a dividend declaring company, for profit hospital is spending a major part of its finances, human resources, etc., on preventive health checkup. And this is the future, reducing footfalls to the hospital. And even from a commercial point of view, I understand that there is more opening in this. The word patient should be replaced by beneficiary because people are going to come to me not when they are sick. They are going to come to me before they fall sick. They are not going to come to me. The word doctor is going to be replaced by healthcare provider. This could be a chatbot. This could be an AI-enabled robot. This is what is going to happen 10 years from now. Obviously, telehealth in its real sense of the term includes hardware, software, connectivity, and today, without investigations, it's rather difficult to come to a diagnosis. Therefore, we not only need to acquire images, laboratory reports, we need to store them, retrieve them, display them, digitally manipulate them, and so on and so forth. When Misra and I started telemedicine, nobody taught us. But I think in 2025, unless you have retraining, you need relearning, you need to unlearn what we learned earlier. And I think this is important. And obviously, no project will succeed unless it is cost effective, appropriate technology, need based, and so on. Today, we have reached a stage where rules and regulations, medico legal issues, insurance, etc., etc. So, there are a lot of things involved in telemedicine. It is not technology per se. And most important, please do not make the mistake which I made. I was not future ready when I started telemedicine 25 years ago. Today, when we say future ready, we are talking of being ready 6 months from now. Obsolescence is the name of the game, and we are becoming absolutely redundant in just 6 months and 1 year. And of course, probably the earliest part probably is in 1996 when CDAC started as software. 1999, I'm just tracing the evolution of telemedicine in India. You can see MIT, AIIMS, New Delhi, SGPGI, Lucknow, etc. I'm not biased. It's not because I've been associated with Apollo for the last 41 years, but telemedicine, clinical telemedicine really took off when Bill Clinton, the then president of the United States, formally commissioned the world's first VSAT-enabled village hospital in Aragonda, the birthplace of Dr. Pratap Reddy. I so vividly remember Dr. Kasturi Rangan, the then chairman of ISRO, and how we gave a demonstration to him. My heart was in my mouth. We had never ever done this before, and we did ISRO's first VSAT-enabled teleconsultation. And you can see here SATCOM-based telemedicine nodes. We were even told that a health SAT is going to be launched. We even had meetings regarding hiring of transponders, leasing of transponders, and how individual private hospitals could pay for transponder time, a couple of crores, etc. But somehow I think we were too far ahead of the time and the project did not materialize. Again, 2000, I am a great admirer of SGPGI telemedicine unit. It's absolutely a National Resource Center for Telemedicine. And again, you can see here, the Indian Task Force, National Task Force for Telemedicine. It so happens both of us were members of the National Task Force. I do remember we recommended a lot of things, but again, 19 years later, many of them have still not been done. Again, probably because we were too far ahead of the time. A major development in India with which I have been actively associated with, continue to be associated, started in 2015 when we developed India's first major public-private partnership with the government of Himachal Pradesh. Kaza and Keelong, the Lahul and Spiti, 34,000 people, 6 months in a year. The temperature is minus 25 degrees centigrade. The government of Himachal Pradesh offered a salary 5 times that of the normal salary, but they were unable to get medical doctors to be there. So we took up the challenge and we started telemedicine. And this is, of course, the Aragonda, the village, and Clinton inaugurating it. I think this did make a very major landmark in the progress of telemedicine. Now, many people are not really aware of this, but I think the government of India and the state governments have done fantastic work in the last 25 years, but somehow it has not really come into the public limelight. I'm not going to read each one of this, but here you see it's impossible for me to cover every single player in the field of telemedicine. Narayana Hridalia, all of you are very famous with the Narayana Health Mission. They are one of the major players. And so far as tele-ophthalmology is concerned, Shankar Netralia and Arvind Eye Hospital, I understand they do almost 3,000 to 3,500 teleconsultations every single day, each of them. They certainly are the world's largest player so far as tele-ophthalmology is concerned. Again, ISRO did play a major role in the pre-internet era. I remember we were all actively involved with the help of ISRO. We had several meetings and so on. But now the role of satellite technology is strictly confined to isolated areas. There are a lot of companies, literally hundreds of them. I've just listed a few of them. Some of them are fly-by-night. Some of them are unauthorized. Some of them are not only illegal, they do not follow practical, ethical, good forward ethical issues and so on. But in spite of that, these companies are there. Now, it's a moot point whether they are contradicting established ethical norms. There is a kickback in the prices. Of course, you don't say kickback, you use more sophisticated terminology, but the fact remains that the fees is split. You find a doctor for a patient and so on and so forth. So you can see this, various platforms are provided, etc. Uttar Pradesh, population of Uttar Pradesh, I understand, is equal to that of Europe or almost more than Europe. And here again, Misra ji was actively associated with this. I hope this will work. I feel like kicking myself now, and I don't want the younger people here to make the same mistake which I made. Can somebody just switch this on, please? Okay. Now, imagine this. Put yourself in a time machine and take yourself back 23 years ago, 31st October 2001. We did about 245 pediatric echocardiograms. Nothing great in the echocardiogram, but what certainly unique was the pediatric cardiologist was in Madras, in Chennai, and these echocardiograms were in the village of Aragonda. This pediatric cardiologist who had just returned from the UK actually supervised a technician who was not a trained echocardiogram technician, told him where to put the transducer, how to do it, recorded all this. Unfortunately, we had no help really. Sorry, I'll stop this. We had really no help at that time. And in spite of my best efforts, I think we presented 1 or 2 papers, that is all. If I had the help and cooperation of an institution like this, I could have at least produced 2 PhDs with pediatric tele-echocardiography 22 years ago. So there's a tremendous amount of clinical data which we have, which we are just not utilizing. In a corporate hospital, it's very difficult to integrate high-scale academics also. This, as I said, we have published several papers, written chapters in books. I've had the privilege of going there twice. And the secret of our success in this was we selected people from the community. There was no way if I had sent people from Madras and Delhi and Ahmedabad to go to Himachal Pradesh, it would have been a disaster. So we personally went with 2 of my colleagues. We selected what we thought were bright young men and women, brought them to Madras, trained them for 3 months, and today it is 9 years. And here again, you need to be innovative. You need to be passionate about what you're doing. I so vividly remember I persuaded the Chief Secretary, the then Chief Secretary of Himachal Pradesh. I quoted a rule. I said a Supreme Court judgment which said that in public interest, when there is no other competitor and you have impeccable credentials, in public interest, the government is justified in giving a pilot project, a turnkey project, even without asking for a contract. So I proved the Supreme Court judgment, persuaded the Chief Secretary. Of course, he gave us a lot of things. He said, if you don't do this, you'll be totally blacklisted. The entire Apollo hospitals will be blacklisted, etc. In my ignorance, and probably I did not have as much white hair as I have today, I foolishly said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, for everything. And that was how we got the contract. After the contract expired, they once again advertised. There was no bidder for the contract other than us. The third time, 4 advertisements they put, nobody made a bid, and therefore we got it. After the second contract was over, the government decided to withdraw. But then the public of Himachal and of Lahul and Spiti, Kaza, Keelong, Pangi, we had 4 centers by a time. They persuaded the local MLA and then said, we have enjoyed all this, we must have it. And so we got a 5th contract. We now have a 5-year contract from Himachal Pradesh because nobody else was interested in doing this. The point I'm trying to emphasize is telemedicine cannot be looked as a dividend declaring. It cannot be looked as a purely commercial venture. Of course, philanthropy alone cannot suffice. There will be some slight excess of income or expenditure. But if you are looking at large returns, absolutely no way you can get large returns, particularly in, ouch, what happened? Sorry about that. Oh, somebody help me. Put that again. See, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So it's not technology that's a mistake. It's the person behind the machine that is causing. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, okay. So these are them. Very quickly, I'm just demonstrating. You can see the numbers speak for themselves. We have a real-time dashboard on all our projects, not only public-private partnership, but CSR activities, etc. Real-time. Now, at this second, if you connect me to the internet, I can tell you how many patients are being seen where, etc., etc. This is our very strong point. You can see on 30th April at 6 p.m. I could have got the statistics even this morning. You can see we have done 20,505 specialty teleconsultations, 10,000 general practitioner, GP, and 1,400 emergency teleconsultations. To the best of my knowledge, we are the only unit anywhere in the world which provides 24/7 tele-emergency services at a height of 14,500 feet in the Himalayas. So this is what we have done. Uttar Pradesh, you can see the cumulative number of beneficiaries who are provided is 7,38,000. And now people, individuals, consultations completed is almost 1 million consultations. Day before yesterday, 1,040 people were seen on the 3rd of May. You can see this is uploaded 3rd of May. On 2nd of May, you can see, etc., etc., all this. This is in a remote area in Gujarat, the University of Pittsburgh Business of Humanity. They gave us $100,000 a year. I did my best trying to convince them. I said, look, this is not the right location unless the denominator is very important. So people are so excited, so passionate about going to the remotest area, which I think is nonsense. It should be viable. It should be commercially viable. In every way, it should be viable. What does it matter if a villager has to go 10 kilometers rather than 100 kilometers? So in spite of that, we decided to put it, the funder, whose bread you eat, his song you must sing. So we had to put it where they wanted. And you can see over a 5-year period, we have done 5,200 consultations, which is less than 3 consultations a day. With less than 3 consultations a day, no telemedicine center, including the employees who work there, will develop that passion, that skill, that knowledge, etc. So one thing which I have learned over the last quarter of a century, you do not necessarily put the telemedicine center in the remotest area. Put it in an area where the catchment area, this was a village of 5,000, less than 1%, 2%, 3% will require healthcare at any given time. How do you expect all 5,000 people to be falling sick at the same time? So your catchment area should be a minimum of 50,000 at least. So this is Meghalaya. You can see the real-time dashboard uploaded. Pharmacy, yesterday, the day before yesterday, we gave 7,221 people got drugs from the telemedicine department, specialty consultations, etc., etc. All these are available in great detail. And so on it goes. NTP NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, a Maharatna, Government of India undertaking. They had major problems during the COVID, and people were threatening to go away. 5% of India's power is generated by the National Thermal Power Corporation, 9 companies. They were a major crisis. We took up the challenge. We established tele-ICU units in all the remote factories of NTPC, some of them bordering on the Indo-China border, etc., etc. You can see all these details given here, and that is how we did it. Tripura Medical Unit, we have 20 mobile medical units in Tripura which go about from place to place, and so on and so forth. That is the Dalmia Charitable Trust. So most we do today about 20,000, 18,000 to 20,000 e-transactions every single day. Of course, it has taken us a long, long time. This again, I feel very sad. I submitted a paper, and believe it, in 15 minutes, the paper was rejected. How do you think any human being could have read it? This was for the Lancet Digital Health. For the simple reason, they thought this was nonsense, because in the eyes of the Westerner, there is no way somebody could have done 3 million fundus examinations remotely. When I submitted the paper, it was about 2 million. These are the numbers we deal with. And this is what you see here. Nowhere in the world, in 20 minutes, does a beneficiary get a computer-generated, digitally signed retinal specialist who gives a report of the fundus and sends it back to you. And we do not have optometrists. The most important thing about telemedicine, I wish to reiterate again and again, you do not, at least in our business model, in our model, we do not have a doctor. We sometimes do not even have a nurse or a paramedic. Give me an 8th standard school dropout and give me 3 months. I will train him how to operate a computer, what questions to ask, how to fill up the EMR in the local language, and so on and so forth. So this you can see for yourself. This is how the fundus image is transferred. I have 35 ophthalmologists, mainly in Madras, a few in Hyderabad, who report wherever they are. They could be in a car traveling. They could be in the beach. They could be in a movie on their smartphone. We have mobile apps now. So on their smartphone, they see this. Everything is automated, semi-automated. They just have to initial it, and this is what goes. The numbers speak for themselves. We have 115 eye centers. These are all existing eye centers in the then undivided government of Andhra Pradesh. There was no Telangana at that time. So undivided government of Andhra Pradesh, you can see the huge numbers. We give spectacles and so on. So teleophthalmology in a very big way. Again, World Economic Forum, we have convinced them, and now, to my knowledge, including AIMS Rishikesh, AIMS Bhubanesh, I don't know about Bhubaneswar, there are several institutions today which employ drones. We were one of the first people to do all these studies, etc. And as you can see here under the acknowledgement, we required the cooperation of Civil Aviation Department, the Secretariat, the local collector, and so on and so forth. It was a stupendous job, but we were able to do it. And today we have fine-tuned everything, and we are ready to use drones. This, of course, is a paper published by Misra, which I just have taken it out. I think it's fantastic. I'm sure he's going to talk to us about how cholera probably was diagnosed with the help of telemicroscopy. E-Sanjeevani, this yesterday afternoon I took this. You can see this Saturday, not yesterday, a live dashboard. The numbers are just unbelievable. This is the Government of India E-Sanjeevani website. 272,000 transactions took place the previous day. Some of the earlier days, it amounts to even 350,000, 400,000 transactions. The total number of consultations will probably in the next year or 2 years from now reach a billion transactions. But then for a population country is really not too much. These figures speak for themselves. 119,000 spokes, 15,000 hubs, providers on board at 213,000 registered medical practitioners are using the E-Sanjeevani Government of India CDAC software as per the details published in their website. National Telemedicine Network, I think Mishra again was associated with this. Out of the 800 medical colleges, again National Medical Commission website, it is amazing, 800 medical colleges. When I graduated, there were only 100 medical colleges in the entire country. And I understand that every medical college by law today needs to have a nodal officer. I think it's just a question of time, another 3 or 5 years, before there are Pakka telemedicine departments in every medical college. Most of the national institutes have telemedicine departments. Again, you can see the numbers there, e-hospital dashboard, patient registration, everything is available on the website. And I think it's a remarkable thing what various agencies of the government are doing. Now, National Medical College Network, of course, several years ago, I tried my best to get onto the NKN, but they said you're a private institution. Even if 10% of India's postgraduate education is done by through the Apollo hospitals, you're a private institution. No way we can allow you to do it. Unfortunately, I think the rule is still the same. So the National Medical College Network, NKN, teleconsultation, e-learning, and so on and so forth. Now, very nice thing is telemedicine is not, I repeat, not confined to allopathy. It includes Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, and so on and so forth. Like the telemedicine practice guidelines, which was brought out on March 25th, 2020, similar guidelines have now been brought out by the Department of Ayush, and you can see here all this comes up. Physiotherapy. There are several, to my knowledge, at least in Tamil Nadu, there are at least 30, 40 physiotherapists who have an extensive clientele. You can see here on the screen, you can see they demonstrate the exercises which is to be done. Tele-yoga has become a commercially viable activity. Almost anything, you can add the word tele to how it is. Odisha telemedicine, again, I think Mishra Ji was a major player in that. Karnataka telemedicine, just a sample to show how many state governments are doing fantastic work. And I was shocked really when I saw a paper in the Lancet Oncology, India takes to telemedicine for cancer treatment, published in 2002. I don't think any country, anywhere in the world, has published a paper in 2002, a government set up about tele-oncology. This is what India is all about. You can see here, Regional Cancer Center, the OncoNet network, and so on. Now, if you ask me to give a single reason why there has been a fantastic escalation, both of us were involved in telemedicine, the graph was like this, slow going, suddenly it became an incremental growth, a radical transformation because of what I call the global CTO, Chief Transformation Officer, a strand of DNA. A strand of DNA converted the entire world's adoption of telehealth. I do not think if the coronavirus or the COVID had not come, no way telemedicine would have taken off to where it is. And you can see here, this is from the newspapers of those days, 2021. I thought someday I will use it, so I just took photographs. Every newspaper, every single newspaper, at least in Madras where I was living, a minimum 5 to 6 advertisements like this. And these are all small hospitals, polyclinics, single doctors, etc. during the COVID. And by the time the government of India had notified, so made it legal, there were thousands of advertisements like this. Just look at this. Government appealed to doctors, volunteer, tele-advise citizens on COVID to volunteer, give a missed call, etc., etc., etc. Literally, there were hundreds of ads like this which happened during the COVID time. Now, since I've been asked to talk all about India, it's very difficult, but these are some of the major players. Ramchandra Medical College, you can see here Mohan Vishwanathan's diabetology unit, that is Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Narayana Health. These are all people who, I'm talking of at least a 4-figure teleconsultations a single day, anything from 500 to 1,000 consultations a single day. Teleradiology. This is my good friend Arjun Kalyanpur, who had the vision, the wisdom, if you want to start single-handed. He started a teleradiology unit about 20 years ago. It is one of the biggest in the world, certainly the biggest in Asia, in every way. Can you imagine? They are present in 25 countries, including Israel, Singapore, United States, and so on. He's an American board-certified radiologist, so he practices teleradiology for at least a dozen universities in the US. How many white Americans understand that when they get a CT or an MRI done at 11 o'clock on Saturday night, it is reported in 25 minutes by radiologists in Bangalore and the report given to them? Most of them don't know this. So 5 million plus scans have been reported. We also went into teleradiology. Our numbers are much smaller. We do about 1,000 to 2,000 images are reported every day. Most of it, interestingly, for the Uttar Pradesh government, we have 120 X-ray units in the periphery of Uttar Pradesh where we give the report. Teleophthalmology, the major players are Shankar Netralaya, Arvind Eye Hospital, VSAT enabled, etc. Thamizarasan Sendil, who has publicly acknowledged that he went into telemedicine only because he heard me talk long ago. He has become a very successful entrepreneur. You can see here, what he has done is amazing. He has tied up with Forest, and an Indian company which are now exporting fundus cameras, and he is on a hire system, on a leasing system. I think almost 10,000 or something, 10,000 fundus machines are installed in general practitioners' clinics, and it's a software as a service. He charges a very reasonable amount, 150 rupees or something, and so the patient pays 150 rupees, and for that, he gets in 15 minutes, like I showed you earlier, what we did in 15 minutes, he gets a computer generated, digitally signed report. And 1/3 goes to him, 1/3 goes to the forest company. The instrument costs several lakhs of rupees, 10 lakhs, 11 lakhs. So they don't pay anything upfront. And this is the model which he uses. He has done more than 1 million consultations. An ordinary, an MBBS, is an MS ophthalmology. With he on his own, he has started this fantastic company. Telepathology already also is taking off in a big way. Of course, Tata Memorial, to the best of my knowledge, is the leader, Dr. Sangeeta Desai. She is the one who has been very passionate in developing about it. Number of, you can see here, and particularly during the COVID, it was amazing how cancer surgery and complex surgery, including not just, most of you are not doctors, not just what we call hematoxylin using staining, but complex stains, etc. All this were done from the house of the pathologist. And today we have telepathology, at least about 20 centers available in India. Again, I'm very fond of the slide. 2002, way ahead of it. It so happened I had to operate as an emergency on the CEO, commanding officer of the military hospital in Chennai. So at that time, I met the GOC, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. I literally forced him. I challenged him. He took up the challenge. Now Lieutenant General Anup Jamwal is retired now. So he said yes. And we set up 15 centers in the Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala area within 6 weeks. He invited me to Lucknow, and where I took a whole one-day course for military officers. Today, of course, is totally different. After he retired, unfortunately, telemedicine fell down, but it has been revived about 2-3 years ago. And once again, you can see here, including a special Sehat e-health assistance and teleconsultation done exclusively. The armed forces are slowly opening out. Before, a few years ago, it was impossible to even publish a paper. Today, papers are being published, and they're allowing it. And the Navy, the Indian Navy, is doing phenomenal work so far as the telemedicine is concerned. This is a tweet just a few weeks ago. You can see submarines. I understand that India's submarines today have the potential. Of course, this is all classified information, so full details will not be available. Telemedicine Society of India, both of us have been actively involved right from its formation. In fact, I think Mishra took the main lead in forming. The first meeting was held in Lucknow 22 years ago. After that, I joined, and so on. We have state chapters and so forth. Now, telehealth around the world, a global guide. I was very surprised, disappointed to see India is not there at all. I wrote to the editor and I said, what the hell, 18% of the world live in India. How can you ignore India? Of course, he had a very, I don't know what reason he gave. He said, our company does not have branches in India, and there is nobody in India to give us the information. Some stupid reason he gave. But you can see India does not rank in this. Since I was asked to specifically talk on telehealth around the world, I'm just giving you this. All this information is available. So there are about, in this book, there are 160 countries which are members of the United Nations. Information is available on 68 countries. All these 68 countries, telemedicine is available. Most of these countries, it has been regularized, legalized post-COVID. And what is interesting is, before COVID, there were 7 countries which 7 countries which said that remote healthcare is illegal. This includes South Korea. South Korea, you could be put in jail a few years ago if a doctor gave a teleconsultation. Abu Dhabi, we tried to get into Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi today, Abu Dhabi Health Authority says very clearly, even if you're the director of AIMS or SGPGI or Apollo hospitals, whatever be your credentials, you cannot give a teleconsultation to a citizen of Abu Dhabi unless the teleconsultant passes a local licensure exam and is qualified, certified, registered as a teleconsultant to the Abu Dhabi Health Authority. So some of our consultants went there, but then they found it was very this thing. And no senior doctor likes to be examined by somebody half your age, and somehow things didn't work out. So we do not have a single doctor in the Apollo system who's licensed legally to practice teleconsultations in Abu Dhabi. South Korea also has changed the rules. Malaysia, to the best of my knowledge, was the first country in the whole world which developed a very detailed rules and regulations. Most of it was adopted by us, by the Telemedicine Society of India, when we recommended all this. Now, this is also a very interesting source of information. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, 9 countries, you can see the names of these countries, allowed medical consultations only in the physical presence of the patient, etc., etc. All these are matters of detail. Just to tell you that all this information are available, I don't think this audience particularly wants it. Now, in conclusion, what is my take-home message? I want to drive home the fact. At the end of the day, it's about viability, sustainability, return on investment. Let's not be hypocrites. No young person is going to take to a new arena, a new specialty, a new discipline unless there's a future in him or her for us. I'm giving you facts and figures to tell you that one industry, I hate the word industry. I belong to the generation where a doctor-patient relationship was sacrosanct. Today, unfortunately, we use the word industry. Even in the world's worst economic crisis in 2008, every share fell down excepting hospital shares. Whether you like it or not, even before you're born, antenatal diagnosis, even after you die, your organs can be cryopreserved. Healthcare will exist forever. So this is one industry which has to be there. In fact, if there's an economic crisis, there'll be thousands of people who go into depression, and therefore you will have to treat them. So whatever it is, healthcare is going to be there. You can see here, there's a fantastic growth, compound annual growth rate of 13% CAGR rate. The figures speak for themselves. AI in healthcare, this is that's what the media says at least. Telemedicine market, everything as per the present projections, this is going to grow. So all these are same, the global telemedicine market and so on. I'm not going into the details. Now, I just want you to understand the big picture. Gone are the days when we are talking of a doctor-patient sitting in front of each other. I had the privilege of spending 8 hours at the Johnson Space Center. I even spoke to one of the astronauts in the ISS, International Space Station, 5 years ago. And just look at this. You can read it for yourself. An astronaut, as part of a research job, was doing a Doppler on himself. When to his horror, he found a clot in the jugular vein, thrombosis, which doctors know could be a very serious, could become something very serious. Diagnosis was made. Drugs were actually sent to him, and he was treated. And 5 months later, he came back. This paper was published about 2 years ago. Now, the same thing could happen in a few years from now in India. So we need to be prepared for this. The Gaganyaan mission, hopefully before the Gangwal school is reopened and formally commissioned, I'm sure ISRO's first Gaganyaan mission people will be orbiting 250 kilometers above the Earth. So what is my final, why do we gather here? Why am I a telemedicine enthusiast, a telemedicine evangelist, talking to a highly technical team of people like you? I'm just giving you my personal views. Telehealth is operational in bits and pieces, in silos all over India. Even to gather this little bit of information took me several hours. With all my background, it took me several hours to gather it. We do not have any data. It's very sad. So what? My favorite statement is so what? There is not a single paper. In fact, Mishra has been telling, and I've been supporting him for the last 10, 15 years, publish or perish, that attitude is just not there. We do not have a single paper, including we have done 15 million teleconsultations so far, excepting for a few papers on specific topics. I don't have a detailed answer to the question, so what? Have we proved that teleconsultation, this additional intervention, has made a difference in the healthcare outcome of the patient, that is economically viable, and so on and so forth? And I once again entreat all of you, I think an academic institution like yours, I see at least 2, 3 PhD topics which can easily be done just between the few of us. We have so much of raw data. We know how to do it. We want smart, enterprising, interested people in it. A prospective, well-designed study comparing without intervention with intervention will make your presence felt in the global arena. We probably do, it's a guesstimate, a 500,000 teleconsultations a day. But for the last 3 years, 5 years, and probably before that it was 50,000 to 100,000 a day. How many papers have been published from India which have been quoted? So Google Scholar Citation Index, it is in double figures. It's not even in triple figures. And all these papers have come from 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. So I think the message here, the ultimate message here is engineering, science, technology, research, prospective studies, double-blind, randomized, controlled, well-nice studies. It doesn't require crores and crores of rupees. It requires a few lakhs of rupees. I think it should be possible, but this cannot be done from an ordinary medical college. This cannot be done from an ordinary trust hospital or a private hospital or even a corporate hospital. You need academics involved. And I think if the purpose of today's meeting enthuses a few of you to get into this, I think the purpose should have been served. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Of course, my last statement, we should no longer be aiming to achieve world class. We should make the rest of the world want to achieve India class. And I think that is what all you people here should have as your primary motive.
Thank you, Professor Ganapati, for such an insightful talk and for taking us through the journey of evolution of telemedicine in India and the world. Now the floor is open for the questions. There's 5 minutes for the questions if anyone has.
I have a question, Professor Ganpati. So, my question is that when we look in the future, which are the major areas of medicine which are going to be benefited using telemedicine? Because recently we got a letter from armed forces that they are considering ENT as part of their telemedicine initiative. So, as a non-specialist, would you like to sort of educate us on that?
Okay, 2 things. One is low-hanging fruits, immediate, high impact, reduced expenditure, easily doable. It's very simple. I think creating awareness, promoting health literacy, patient empowerment, knowledge empowerment. A recent media report just 2 weeks ago, I don't remember exactly which states, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Central India, the ICMR report, you can easily Google it and get it back, said that 65% of people between the age of 30 and 65, study just conducted about a year, 6 months ago, fairly large number, I mean, adequate sample size, had never had their BP checked even once from the time they were 30 till the age of 65. 100,000 people were just asked, did you have your BP checked? And 65% said no between the age of 30 and 65. So these, with technology, these are very, very simple things. I mean, I see, at least when I was in practice, even a couple of years ago, I see doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, judges, etc., coming with a devastating stroke because the BP went very high, 200 and above, blood vessel and the brain ruptured. The guy never knew he was hypertensive. Preventive health. I think this is the most important thing, and technology can be used in a large way. That is number 1. Number 2 is the rare exotic conditions where you just don't have enough adequate trained personnel available even in a general medical college, like genetics, telegenomics. See, genetics this morning also, I think you were asking that. So the genetics today totally changes when applied to the right clinical case. Like I gave you an example of warfarin, which we used as an antithrombolytic agent. Now, warfarin today, we know definitely there are two types of individuals based on the genetics, which will metabolize a drug. So one group will metabolize it faster, another will not metabolize it. So like that, cancer breast, the outcome can be totally changed depending on what drug you give. Similarly, for brain tumors, chemo, see, all of you know about urine for culture sensitivity. We culture the urine and give the appropriate antibiotic. How many of you know that today, with 100% specificity and sensitivity, you can do that for tumor cells? So you grow a tumor cell in a petri dish, give the appropriate chemotherapy agent, and see if that cell dies or not. All this requires sophisticated level, which will not be available. So telemedicine can be useful. So I would divide your question into two parts. One is very simple, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, asthma, cancer, etc. Very simple, just education. The other, of course, is very sophisticated, like the ones I'm telling you, where now I don't think Kanpur will have, to the best of my knowledge, Kanpur may not have this level of sophisticated genetics. But from Kanpur, it's so easy to send a sample to AIMS Delhi or to someone else in Delhi or SGPG and Lucknow, I don't know. So I think that is where two groups where it will be helpful. But ENT, I'm sorry, it doesn't, you can ask Misra also for his opinion, but I'm not convinced at all that if I'm the sanctioning authority, I would not, the incidence and prevalence of ENT conditions is relatively low. At the end of the day, it has to be cost. It's a taxpayer's money. You have to justify. I don't know why that shows ENT.
Thank you.
Hello. So this is related to child and mother health care. While mother is giving birth to the child, she herself, it is a kind of rebirth to her. And 39 weeks from first week to reconceive to the delivery, there is a lot of C-section thing is going on. And particularly when you mentioned rural-urban health divide and this telemedicine, there are certain basic healthcare procedures need to be carried out. Every time going to the clinic and waiting there, and even hygiene of the clinics also a kind of matter for the pregnancy woman. So how this telemedicine can play a key role? One is the reduction of the economic costs. Second one is really promote the healthcare to the needy mother and the child. So this is what
This is
my
the
thinking.
simplest thing. We can set it up in 24 hours tomorrow. All that it requires is the change of the mindset, persuade the local doctor or the local midwife to get. See, there is an inherent reluctance on the part of the beneficiary. See, when I ask another doctor for an opinion, it's a tacit acceptance that I am not competent. The doctor is afraid that the patient will view it in that way. You understand? So what you said is an excellent use case. No money, nothing required. All we want is a reasonably good internet connection. That's all. Today, ultrasound images. Of course, there are some legal problems. Now, ultrasound, see, for in pregnancy, as you know, ultrasound plays a very major role. We also have fetal heart monitors. In fact, I think there was a proposal from IIT, if I vaguely remember. I know I was a member of several committees in BIRAC, and I know we did sanction a lot of money for development of fetoscope and fetal cardiac monitors, where the sound can be transmitted through the internet. There are some that also can be done. So it's very easy. What you say is an excellent use case, which can be done immediately. All you need is to identify a specialist at the remote end and the beneficiary at the local end. It's very, very simple to do. Doesn't require any sophistication at all.
Now let me invite our next speaker, Professor Jaideep Srivastav. Professor Srivastav is a professor at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at University of Minnesota, USA. He is the Data Science Director of Undergraduate Studies. Professor Srivastav is the co-founder and the president of Ninja Metrics, a startup company that focuses on analytics for social systems and social media. He is also one of our distinguished visiting faculty at the Gangwal School. With this brief introduction, I request Professor Srivastav to please uh, deliver his talk entitled From Episodic and Reactive to Continuous and Predictive, the Future of Digital Medicine.
Okay, so that's good. Okay, yes, I will do that. Okay, thank you. So, well, first of all, I'm also an alum, so it's always good to come back and visit home. So I'm actually, again, given the background, I feel like an engineer between two doctors, which is also, the order in which I'm speaking. So I'm going to be speaking from an engineering perspective because that is my background. And I'm actually going to, there are sort of three sort of things here that I'm going to show, but they really make up two different parts. So one thing I'm going to talk about initially is what is happening in one part of the region where I live, which is often considered to be the medical devices hub of the world. Okay, Medtronic, I'm sure everyone has heard of that, of Medtronic Corporation. Then there's Medical Alley, all kinds of companies there. And in fact, Medtronic itself came out of the University of Minnesota as a collaboration between, well, one student, Earl Bakken, who started Medtronic, who used to work in the lab of Dr. Walter Lillehei, who was a cardiologist. And then later on, he went ahead and did his master's thesis as an electrical engineer. And his master's thesis was a cardiac pacemaker. And then he started a company, and I think we know the history after that. Okay, so what is in the region, which is very well known for Medtronic, for Mayo Clinic, for United Health, which is the largest private insurance company in the US, okay, and basically something like about 40% of all the people in the US are insured by United Health. Now, to put that into perspective, given the fact that the US healthcare budget is about $4.4 trillion, 40% of that passes through this one company. So you can just give that as a perspective as to how much influence they have and how much data is being collected. So that's a region. So what I want to talk about is, rather than many of those other numbers, what is the next step that is happening over there? So that's something I want to talk about that. And that is important from the perspective that one of my personal reasons for being affiliated with GSMST is that, well, of course, this is alma mater for me, but also currently I'm in an environment and I work in that environment with some of the leading med tech companies and using things like AI and so on. So while the discussion from the other two gentlemen is about telehealth, I'm going to talk about more on some of the AI and medical devices, and potentially from the perspective of research in those areas for GSMST. Okay, so with that sort of preamble, I will first talk about some of these, as I said, these fact sheet kind of things, and then I will talk about some of my own research to give an illustration, at least a very tiny slice, of what myself and other colleagues like myself in that region are working in the use of AI for medtech. All right. So why is this not okay? It actually is it's a PDF. So why is it not opening? Right. So okay. Why authentication? Okay. Great. That's all right. Okay. So this is, so basically what happened is something like this, that about a year ago, actually not even a year ago, last October, the White House, through the Department of Commerce, and in the Department of Commerce, there's something called the Economic Development Authority. Okay, they designated, so as you can see, October 23, 2023, they designated 31 regions across the nation as what are called tech hubs. Okay, and this is just to give you a picture. Okay, and you can see here is it's across the nation, and this is where Minnesota is, and this is where we were also selected as one of them. And what are the different areas? So these are the overviews of the different tech hubs. So for example, something about forest bioproducts, precision medicine tech hub in Greater Philadelphia region, whatever, headwaters, bioworks, ocean something, smart corridor, whatnot, okay? Battery technology. But here is what happened in our region. That is, this is called the Minnesota MedTech Hub 3.0. And the goal is, it is smart medtech by integrating artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science into medical technology. All right. So why was this region selected? Because of its history, but also this was a proposal that we put forward. And the idea was that the promise that the region has made, or this team made to the country, was that just like we established 50, 60 years ago, the Medtronic, and which led to all of this entire MedTech hub, is that we will, going forward, keep the preeminence of the nation in this area of medical, of medtech. And medtech now defined very broadly, especially with smart medtech. Okay, so that is a promise. Okay. Now, if anyone is interested, I can actually, leave such slides to who may be interested in finding out more what is happening. So let me show you a little bit more detail of the response of what exactly was proposed. Okay, I'm just going to show a couple of these things. So here's, for example, we just submitted a proposal to the Department of Commerce, and the rest of the details are not that important. I think what is important is look at this consortium. This is how the region works, for example. So you look at this. Institutes of higher learning. Well, of course, there are other smaller universities, but we are the big ones in that. But also a lot of cities, and then of course the local communities, tribes and whatnot. And then look at the industry. There's Abbott, Alina, which is a hospital system. These are insurance companies, Boston Scientific, another medtech company. Then even venture capital firms. Okay, Health Partners, another healthcare company. And you can see here Mayo Clinic, Medtronic, Medical Alley Association, so many organizations. And then of course the economic development organizations, workforce and labor organizations, other venture development organizations, community building organizations, all kinds of things. And basically, this was really interesting to put this proposal together. And in fact, writing a proposal with 39 organizations, believe me, is not easy. I was leading the effort from our university side engineering school. We had medical school colleagues and so on. And but we were able to submit it and do it in about roughly 4 months. Okay, so you can see things like this, that what is the kind of things people are trying to do. Okay, increase smart medtech global position to #1 in 10 years. From venture capital investment, $3 billion of new capital investment. These are the kind of objectives that is being portrayed. Okay, so what does all of this do? As you can see, it is an ambitious project. Okay, but it brings in a lot of all types of sectors together, from research at the university level, big medical schools, medical players, hospital systems, health insurance companies, all kinds of players, including things like venture capitalists and the community health and all kinds of aspects. Okay, and then the idea is to, for example, 500,000 healthcare jobs in the state. Now that's not very large by India standards, but that's a large by Minnesota standards, which has only about a population of 5.5 million people. So you add 500,000 jobs. That's there's huge employment opportunities. Okay. And here are some of the a little bit more details of how these different, for instance, there's the social support aspect, there is the workforce, policy, ecosystem, education, training, infrastructure, housing. In fact, you even have to think of, well, you're going to add 500,000 jobs. Where will people live? So they will involve people like that. So this is the kind of different elements of it. All right. Now I'll go into more sort of personally what I'm doing. So of course, a project like this is a huge initiative, right? It's a big initiative for the next 10 years. And the idea is that, in fact, the person leading from Medtronic was the CEO of Medtronic himself. He said, I am personally very interested, and he actually came to many of our meetings to kind of get people involved. And these are large companies. Getting the time of the CEO of these companies is not that easy. All right. So amongst various things that will happen in activity like this, at the there's the whole, from the basic research to applied research to maybe it's validation to clinical trials to all these kind of things all the way up to the market, right? That's why you see all these different kind of players that are there. So what do people like me do in a university environment, sitting in the engineering school and talking to folks in the medical school or different medical schools and hospitals? So, well, let's see. Okay. What is this? Get genuine office. No, I don't want to do any such thing. I just want to go into presentation mode. All right. So let me talk a little bit about my own research. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to define what exactly I mean by this. And then I'm going to give some specific examples of projects. So as I said, I'm going to talk basic outline. Okay, this is the basic outline, the basic idea what I mean by this. And then I will give example use cases. And I will talk about two major kind of things that I've been working on for the last few years. And in each of them, we have done a number of different projects. So one theme is sort of modeling and predicting patient trajectory. So patients, they are going through, or people in general, as they're going through life, longitudinally, they're going through a certain trajectory of what their status of health is. Now, the problem is that, or I shouldn't even say problem, the practice so far has been that, yes, someone looks at a history, right? The qualified doctors here, they look at the patient history and they look at what is the latest status on that, right? And then try to make some inference from that. Yes, we have seen this case before and so on. But there is no, there's always so much data available, but there's no mathematical model that is saying how exactly this trajectory moving. People are making just some kind of intelligent guesses, right? But to be able to quantify how some progression is happening, that would be useful. Okay, so that actually has been a theme of my research, and I will give you very concrete examples of doing all of that stuff. Okay, at least 2 or 3 different things. For example, predictive triaging for hospital patients, reducing cardiac risk through behavioral interventions, and even continuous frailty assessment for elderly at home. Okay. Then another one is I would call therapy compliance for chronic conditions. Now, Professor Ganpati just talked about the fact that many people have not, 65% of the people were not even aware that they need to get blood pressure done. And even in many cases where people even get things done, very often they will not, for chronic conditions, they will not comply with the therapy. Okay, and if you don't do that, then well, it's not going to benefit anything, right? So that is an area that we have studied a lot, because a lot of my background is in analysis of people's behaviors, and we applied that to this particular area. And we'll talk about a couple of different things. We'll talk about things like in the sleep medicine area, which is an area of interest of mine, that people have a condition called sleep apnea. And sleep apnea, which bothers many people, at a mild level, it's not that much of a problem. But when it is a severe case, it can start causing things like heart conditions. Okay, so and in most of these cases, it's a kind of a chronic condition where whatever therapy you use is mostly maintenance therapy. And if you don't use maintenance therapy, then risk is not reduced. In fact, can actually increase. Okay, so I'll talk a bit about that. So what do I mean by episodic to continuous care? And this is a term that is becoming more popular. So episodic care is literally, if you think about the x-axis of the timeline, right? So a health episode happens. Well, actually, just go back a second. So episodic care is that a health episode happens, Like, I mean, I hope it doesn't happen to me, but suddenly I'm giving a talk and I complain of chest pain. Then doctors here will say, well, let's take you to the medical center, right? So a health episode leads to a care episode, okay? Most of the time, someone has a fever, they go to the hospital, they go to the clinic. So the health episode drives the care episode. So in that sense, it is aperiodic, right? And it's episodic, and it is also not, it's kind of reactive, right? So the healthcare system is reacting to something that happens to the patient. So these are the problems that, so let us say someone has an episode, they go to a clinic, some data gets collected about them. After that, they have a more severe episode, they go to the hospitalization, more data is collected and so on, right? And there's a follow-up. But what is happening is that a lot of the time when they're outside, there's no data available, right? So we don't even know. So what is happening is that many people who show up to the hospital or the clinic is sort of like a self-triaging. They're saying, well, I need to go to the doctor, okay? They're making that decision. Whether that's the right decision or wrong decision, it's not clear. So there are some people who are very sort of hypochondriac. They will go to the doctor even nothing happens, they will show up at the doctor's place, right? And then there are some people, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, they will not go, it's too late. So from a statistical perspective, there's too many false positive and false negatives, right? So, but with the modern devices, what you do is that you start collecting data, okay? From whether it is apps to smartwatches to phones to this, that, and many such devices. And they could be sort of wellness devices or apps, or they could be maybe even some of those masks that you're wearing, and of course if you have a pacemaker, then you're getting a lot of cardiac data continuously at a very high granularity, okay? So if you start collecting all of that kind of data, so there's this additional data that is over here that is being shown, okay? And you might even be in a position to avoid many of these follow-ons, okay? So what it is doing is it has two impacts. If you can avoid many of those things, naturally you are increasing by less utilization of the healthcare system, you are increasing capacity effectively, right? And also your cost reduction is happening. So it has both cost and capacity issues, as well as it is beneficial, it is better for the patients themselves because things get detected early, okay? And so these are just some of the there's continuous care, there's visibility all the time. The triaging is by care provider based on data analytics and low false positive, false negative, and so on. So too late visits become timely visits, and many unnecessary visits can be avoided. So the idea is that right now the provisioning of healthcare is being driven, well, sometimes by the people self-triaging, and sometimes by, if some healthcare system just wants to make more money, then they just want to bring people in even if they don't need to be brought in. I mean, that's an entirely separate issue, but at least what this is saying is that this right sizes the use of healthcare, okay? This is just a kind of a background slide, but let's skip that. Let's go into some specific examples of what I mean by this. So as I said, one of the specific projects I will talk about is something called the general modeling and predicting patient trajectory, okay? So let me start with this, okay? So this was a project that we did, which started during COVID, okay? And the idea was, so here were some elements. So we were working with Alina Health, which is a hospital system in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I live. And this project started around, well, literally around 4 years ago, right, when COVID hit. Here were the problems. Clearly, all kinds of things like ICUs became a bottleneck. Ventilators become a bottleneck. All kinds of resources became a bottleneck. That was one problem. The second problem was that the exact treatment protocols for COVID were not clear. In fact, to begin with, Even the transmission mechanism was not clear. You know, where people used to wash hands and people were being hosed down, when in reality, it was an airborne disease. So therefore, masking eventually turned out to be the best, right? So in all of that situation, the exact protocols, hospital protocols were not clear. So then the question was, so we were working with the ICU people at Alina Health, and they posed to us exactly these two questions. They said, look, first of all, we know that some patients, they come in. Now we have this ICU problem, ICU bed problem. Can you predict that if a patient is currently in the general ward, they are going to need an ICU bed in the next 24 hours, next 48 hours, maybe next 3-4 days? On the other hand, if supposing someone is in the ICU, can you predict that they are going to be, right now they may not look that good, but in one day they are on the path to recovery, and therefore we can plan to release them from the ICU, because this is our capacity problem. So if I can somehow stratify risk on my people in the general ward, I can get them ready to move to ICU, and I can empty out the ICU beds. Okay, so they wanted predictive models of this, not just like, okay, let's look at this, yeah, is there a bed, and to put them in, because it might be too late. Then the second problem they posed was, they said that, oh, and by the way, we don't have enough number of COVID cases for you to have a good training set. So, you know, for those of you who have worked with AI or machine learning, you know that having a training set is critical. Without that, how do you learn? Okay. So what we did was, of course, remember, they did not pose, you know, these were qualified doctors. They didn't pose in terms of training set. That was our interpretation. They said, well, we don't have enough cases to be able to come up with a protocol. Okay. So what we did was, so obviously we did some work in sort of longitudinal modeling, and I will give some idea over here what we were trying to do. And secondly, we use a technique that is for, how many people here are familiar with AI and machine learning to some degree? Okay. There's something called transfer learning. Okay. So transfer learning is this idea. What you do is that, let us say you have a problem for whom which you do not have too many samples. Okay. But there's a related problem for which you have lots of samples. So what you do is you build a model on this and test it over there, and then the few samples you have, you test the model on those samples. If the two domains are reasonably close enough, then this model will show good behavior over here. Okay, because in this domain that you are interested in, you do not have enough data to build a model, because that's your challenge. Of course, as time progresses and as data starts getting collected more and more, you can keep refining the model over here. Okay. So this is exactly what we did. So what we did was we modeled the behavior of a patient as something called a dynamical system. Again, the engineers in the audience would know what that is. A dynamical system, in fact, we're talking about trajectories and so on. In fact, you know, when aircrafts fly, they're modeled as that so that they can self-stabilize and things like that. So you can think about something like this, that, you know, let's say this is a stable or healthy region, and this is a self-stable region, right? This is a sort of homeostasis, right? That the body tries to repair itself, okay? But let us say an infection comes in and someone gets out of this self-stable region, and then at a certain point, the disease progression happens, and let us say if it doesn't happen too much, you can go back, or let us say eventually you go to the hospital, right? And you're in the hospital, and then you get recovered, and then you might come back, and then, or you might get readmitted, or there's a chronic condition that you're suffering from, then you have to live in this region, and then after that, you know, if it gets really bad, then you can go from a regular hospital stay to ICU stay, and then you could die, right? So this is sort of the whole, you can keep, these are different stages of the whole this dynamical system space, and you can keep moving back and forth. This is how we kind of move from birth to death, if you will, right? The idea is, can we use models like this to figure out what to do, because you need some idea of how someone's health is moving through a trajectory in space to be able to make predictions. Okay, so what did we do? So here's just to show an example that we took characteristics of inpatient trajectories, something like about 55 different variables. So we took a person, these again, I'm talking about COVID patients, right? We took each patient and modeled them in a 55-dimensional space, okay? And then we said, well, how are they moving in that 55-dimensional space, okay? In fact, these are just some, well, I can't show you a 55-dimensional space, so this is just a couple of dimensions that you can see. These blues are the people who survived, and red are the people who died. So one of the things this is showing is that, yes, indeed, this is kind of a dangerous region, and this is a good region, okay? Without going into too much of these details, let me just show what some of the key things that came out to be, okay? So, I mean, there's things like stratification and phenotyping and so on, and this starts getting into some math, okay? So, okay, again, I will not go into the math. Anyone who's interested, please get in touch, but let me come to the final significance. And by the way, just this is the fun part of it. We define the problem. Let us say this is a trajectory of one patient and this is a trajectory of another patient. What is important is not the two trajectories, but how much of a distance between them. And in fact, there's something very interesting we found, okay? And this is fascinating anyways, that you know that when there are two patients on two different trajectories, sometimes those trajectories won't even mix, right? And in fact, this is actually you see this is a picture of a fish, right? This is a fish that is swimming through, and when fishes swim through water, they generate fluid dynamics, right? Because of fluid dynamics, they generate different waves or different kinds of vortices, okay? And these are called LCS, which stands for, let's see, Lagrangian coherent structures, okay? Don't worry about that, it's a mathematical concept. Point is that they generate these structures, and sometimes these structures don't even intersect with each other. What we were able to show, and the credit for this goes to my PhD student, not to me, I should acknowledge that, is that some of the mathematics that was developed in the structure of flow of fluids is directly adaptable to how trajectories of patients behave as they're moving through this 55-dimensional space, okay? We were able to draw upon some results from vortex flows and things like that in fluid flow analysis into the area of how patient trajectories work. Now, I'll tell you why this is interesting. This is exactly the kind of work that GSMST should be doing. We have an IIT Kanpur mechanical engineering department, computer science department, electrical engineering department, and if they're doctors, now we could not have done this work if we didn't have an didn't have an engineering background, but also we could not have done this work unless we were talking to ICU doctors, okay? So this is to give you, as I said, I wanted to give some concrete examples of how two different domains coming together can actually do something which cannot happen in isolation with the top medical school or the top engineering school by itself, okay? So then here is what the experimental results were. So this was a particular example. We took 8,219 stays from about 7,000 plus patients. We had a 55 feature space, okay? And then outcome was in-hospital mortality, yes or no, okay? And then time step, days 1 and so on, right? Okay. So here's what we interestingly found. Then we looked at all of these different 7,080 trajectories of patients. We could find about 54 signature trajectories. And that is important. So what exactly is a signature trajectory? So best way to think about is that think of them as cohorts or groups or clusters, whatever you want to use, right? So you could take these 7,080 trajectories and cluster them into 54 of them trajectories, right? And these signatures basically ended up in 32 of them were what were like, imagine that there are 32 of them were good and 22 were bad. That means 32 of those trajectory clusters ended in the patient getting discharged, and 22 of them led to the patient dying. Okay. What is the value of this? The value is, imagine you have a topology or a topography, right? Not topology, topography of a map. And you have these ridges and valleys. Okay. And at the bottom of every valley is a river. So there are 54 such valleys that exist and ridges in between them. And the 32 of those rivers lead to a good outcome, 22 of them lead to a bad outcome. So let us say 32 of them are green, the person is going to live, 22 of them are red, those person is going to die. Now all these trajectories are all these little rivers or some tributaries inside each of those valleys. So you can say the value of life and the value of death. If a patient is in the valley of life and they're heading towards one of those ridges that will take them to valley of death, then the role of the medical system is to make sure they remain in the valley of life, right? And similarly, if supposing someone is on a trajectory that is in the valley of death, then have an intervention that gets into the adjacent valley where they can, the minimal change so they can go from across the ridge from one valley to the other valley, right? That is sort of a way to visualize this whole thing. Idea is to be able to predict and also be able to predict that how far gone you are, that is going to become very difficult to bring you back from one to the other. So all of a sudden, sort of, now when you start visualizing like this, you can start using models from even civil engineering. So the interesting thing is that being able to take the abstract problem of patient trajectory modeling and then being able to apply techniques from fluid dynamics, from hydraulics, if you will, or hydrology, as well as computational models from computer science and machine learning to be able to do things like that. Okay. And by the way, here's a, you can see that the actual accuracy of the models is quite high. So our predictions for 24 to 48 hours were, these are AUROC is basically area under the curve kind of a metric, which is accuracy of these models is over 90%. And that is extremely high. So if you can predict with 90% accuracy in an ICU setting that this person, or in a hospital setting, this person needs to go to an ICU next 24 to 48 hours, or this person, the ICU is going to be better, that is very, very significant. Here's another example of what we are doing with that. So for example, as you can see this is the symbol of Mayo Clinic. This actually is a project that we are just about to start with them. This is reducing cardiac risk through behavioral interventions. Okay. So they are studying atrial fibrillation, right, which is basically some kind of an arrhythmia. And AFib, if it happens, then that can cause, if untreated down this line, it will cause a cardiac event. Okay. And when someone is discovered with AFib, then you have to go through what is called aggressive risk factor management. So for example, weight management at exercise, hyperlipidemia, don't ask me any more about it. Then obstructive sleep apnea, hypertension, diabetes, and of course smoking, alcohol abuse. These are all factors that are comorbidity factors they will add to your condition. Okay. So what happens today, the protocol is that someone comes in, they're detected with AFib, and they will be put under all of these things, right? They will be told, okay, you know what, you need, if you have to reduce your weight by 10%, at least final BMI should be less than 27, all of this stuff. This is the target you have to get to. Okay. Hyperlipidemia, this is what you have to do. Start statins and all that stuff. Sleep apnea, well, you have to get do a sleep study. If there's a CPAP, start using something called a CPAP. If hyperapnea index is more than 30, this again, and then, hypertension, diabetes, you start doing all of this stuff. Okay. They're told to do this. They're given this long list. Then they will be told, come back next month, let's see how you're doing. right? Come back the month after that. But the point is that people will just come back, but what is happening in between, no one knows. So they're now going to conduct a trial where they're saying, look, nowadays people have smart watches and smart scales, continuous glucose monitor, CPAP and upper airway stimulation, smart beds and wearable BPs, all of these kind of devices. So what the specific trial that Mayo Clinic is going to do is, they're saying we will take 800 people who have AFib, half of them will be told, go ahead and do this. Other half will not just only be told, they will be monitored using these kind of devices, okay? And the idea is to be able to show over something like a 3 to 4 year study, clinical trial, that indeed having these devices makes the compliance better, and therefore the final outcome is better from a mortality perspective, okay? And so they of course are the ones who are doing, they're the medical people, but our team, which is the computing people, we are going to get all that data every single day, and from that we'll be able to, using our predictive model, say, well, this person is likely to quit, or this person is not doing enough, so please go ahead and intervene and tell them that they need to be more compliant. Here's yet another example, not as extreme as death, but continuous proactive care at home for the elderly, okay? So again, senior citizens living by themselves is a huge issue. In the US, it's a huge issue, right? Especially because, as we all know, in most of the Western world, family structures are not as strong, and parents and elderly parents don't live with the children. So now there's a huge issue, okay? And so again, the thing is that, and as people start becoming frail, there's this whole thing, lack of muscle mass called sarcopenia, which all of us suffer from, and all of you young people, you will also suffer from at some point. Beyond the age of 50, muscles start, becoming weaker, and that leads to all kind of problems, okay? So here's something that is being proposed. So here's what happens. So let us say there's someone at home, right? And so, elderly people, and this is typically what gerontologists will do, right? So they will have people come in and say, well, we will try to figure out how frail you are, okay? And there are all these things like exhaustion, how exhausted do you feel, how weak do you feel, unintentional weight loss, low physical activity, mobility. So all these tests will be done, right? You come in and they have some standardized tests. Then they will take all these scores and then map it onto some scale, a frailty scale, okay? And if you are very high on the frailty scale, they will say, oh, well, you need assistance, okay, or something like that. You need monitoring, okay? Some kind of scoring model is done. But here's the problem. So let us say CFI is some kind of a frailty index, okay? It's a frailty index of some kind. Then, and supposing these are the different points at which the visit is happening to the provider. So the first time the visit happened, the score was below some critical threshold. So everything is fine with you, except come back in 3 months. But then let us say a week or so after that, their frailty level went up. Now for the next 3 months, they don't know. So they are at a risk, right? And as we all know that if a senior person falls down, breaks the hip or something, that can be very bad because they get bedridden, and that can be all kinds of difficulties because the bones will then not, later on not heal very easily, okay? So there's a risk and so on. So the idea nowadays is, well, what do you do? Well, there are all these things. You start collecting all this data, and suddenly your what was a point measure becomes now a continuous measure. So now, if this data is coming in constantly, then all of this calculation can be done directly, and now you can do this, and suddenly as soon as so it's like as if you're able to judge their frailty every single day, all the time. So at that point, whenever the frailty level goes above, you send someone over there, at least call them up and say, how are you feeling? How are you doing, right? Or send a home healthcare person, or maybe call them in. So these are the kind of things that people are thinking about seriously, because old senior citizen healthcare, at least in the US, is a huge part of the burden, of the healthcare burden, from a cost and effort perspective. Okay. Let's see, how many more minutes do I have? 8 more minutes. Okay. So I'll just give another, maybe one of the examples over here. Okay. So I talked about, this modeling patient's journey or behavior or trajectory in some kind of an abstract space, and how you can bring engineering and all these things into it together, knowledge of engineering and medicine, to come up with some novel solutions. Okay. I'm going to now talk about therapy compliance, and here we will bring in ideas from behavioral psychology and to apply it to medicine, right? Because very often the fact that someone is not compliant with something is essentially a psychological issue. Okay. So a specific example I'm going to start with is sleep apnea, because this is an area I have worked in quite a bit. So this is just to give you some number, right? So 22 million Americans suffer from this, 200,000 new cases every year. And also now sleep apnea by itself may not be that bad, but the things it is associated with is high, right? We talked about, it elevates your blood pressure, and we know what blood pressure elevation can cause: heart disease, atrial fibrillation, stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression, all these kind of things. Okay. How is sleep apnea diagnosed? Well, the gold standard is that you have to go to a clinic, you get hooked up with all kinds of devices, a skull cap for measuring your EEG, all kinds of stuff, ECG, whatnot, and then you sleep over there. Most of the time people are not even able to sleep very well. It's an artificial setting. So that's why they have also come up with some home tests, right? Then finally, if you're declared to have sleep apnea, if it's a mild case, you might be told, oh, go get some exercise. That's all you need. Okay, improve your diet, get your exercise, reduce your body fat. Or you can go to a dentist and get one of these devices that you can put in the mouth, so that if your breathing through the nose has a problem, you can breathe through the mouth. That's about it. Okay. If it's a bit of a moderate level, then you get something called a CPAP mask, and CPAP stands for continuous positive air pressure. And basically what it says is that keeps sending, so there's a pump that runs and it keeps sending air through your mouth. And the idea is, well, mouth or nose, right, this whole region. And the idea is that that air pressure will keep your windpipe open, so that you won't have a problem. And of course, it's very severe, then you can actually have a surgery. Okay. Let me just give an example. So one of the things that we did was, so this is sort of, again, a project that we did with some medical partners, okay? And what we did was that we were looking at this idea of being able to, well, actually I want to show one. Don't read this whole slide, okay? Just look at this picture here, that those graphs that you see, okay? So one of the big problems with CPAP machines is that people, they stop using it after a while, okay? And when people stop using it, then there's a problem. It's not going to work. So of course, the sleep experts have realized that. So what they do is that when someone is assigned a CPAP machine, they will call them after 3 days and say, how is everything going? Then call them after 2 weeks, they'll call them after 1 month, okay? And from that, they can kind of make some sense that someone is going to quit. Now, roughly 40% of all the people quit, and 60% don't. But right now, they're treating them all the same. So they tried to build some predictive models, and those models only had an accuracy of maybe about 60%, okay, which is not very accurate. And that was based essentially on these interviews that they conducted, okay. What we did was, we said, well, we are going to use the data that is generated from those machines, because you put on those machines, the data is actually goes. So there are two major manufacturers. One is Philips Respironics, and one is one called ResMed. Okay, they started collecting that data. They give it back to the hospital. So we got access to that data. Using that data, you could see suddenly accuracy went up from something like 60% to about 80-85% accuracy. Now all of a sudden becomes very interesting. Not just that, what is even more interesting is that rather than calling everyone on a certain day, what this does is that on every single day, this system automatically keeps scoring all the patients and saying who is at a low risk for quitting, who is at a medium risk, who is at high risk. So then whoever is the therapy manager knows I only need to contact those people who are at high risk, maybe those at medium risk. Low risk, I don't need to do anything. And because 60% of the people are not going to quit, and maybe other 20% are at medium risk, you can focus on the 10 to 15% who are at high risk. Okay, so those are the kind of things that can start happening. Yeah. In fact, here's some more data from an implantable device for sleep apnea called made by a company called Inspire Medical. It actually is like a little pacemaker that you can get installed over here, and a lead goes from there to some muscles in the throat, and basically if it detects that it's going to close, it gives a little electrical shock. Okay, but what this analysis showed was that these different people, so these are different behavior cohorts. So these are kind of textbook. So this is like each of these represents one patient and a whole month of when they started using the device and when they stopped using the device. So you can see on the left hand side, this is a textbook patient. Every day goes to sleep at a certain time, wakes up at a certain time. Okay. Second one is they also have a good sleeping pattern, but this purple color means that they have paused their machine. That means they keep waking up all the time. And the person on the right, they have an irregular, they're very irregular. And in fact, it was also observed that for these people and for these people, the therapy did not succeed quite as much. So it's not just that you're using the therapy, is it working for you? Okay. And then of course, we can do all of these different kinds of analyses. And by the way, now here's the other part I would say. So we were working with this company Inspire Sleep, and they gave us all the data. But then all the analysis that we did, does it mean anything? Okay. And that's when we had to be part of a clinical trial. So this is University of Pittsburgh Medical School, Sanford Health, and Ohio Sleep Medicine Institute. So 3 different medical systems. They had deployed these devices. We worked with them, got the data, and then we did all our cluster analysis and all that kind of business. Okay. A little bit more. Okay. So the last part I want to show is what I would even call a, you could say that sometimes you observe something that just turns out to be an unexpected benefit out of something. Okay, so we were studying sleep apnea. We presented this work in some forum, and suddenly we got a call from Merck in Germany. Okay. So I said, well, you guys don't do anything in sleep apnea. So no, but we do work in growth hormone, children's pediatric growth hormone therapy, right? So sometimes some children, they suffer from what is often called dwarfism, or they're just not going to grow, right? So to make sure that their height increases, they are given growth hormone therapy, but that can only be given at a certain age, before puberty and sort of late maybe 7, 8 years to 12 years, something like that. Now, one of the things that was happening was Merck noticed that, so if a child is identified with this problem, then the parents are told, bring your child in periodically, maybe once a month or once every week or whatever, to get an injection. The regularity is extremely important, but parents would, many times parents are not very educated about it, they would not bring the child and so on. So what Merck started doing was, they came up with this device. Okay, this actually is a self-injector. You can just inject it, right? It also kept recording how often it is being done. Then they noticed that one of the big problems was that sometimes children started having some difficulties, or they started showing some undesirable behavior. And what was happening was, this whole thing would be, let us say, 1 injection every week, and they were given with a whole ampoule of about 26 of them, and said, after 6 months, come to us, right? And what some of the parents were doing was, again, out of complete ignorance, that they would not be giving this, and then they would have to go to the doctor. Then the last week they would give out 20 of those. Now that is something not to be done, right? So then they started putting more electronics in this, of things like that each time you did, it would collect the information about that and periodically send it over the Wi-Fi and so on to, or some cell phone service to Merck, and Merck could track this. So from this also they wanted to figure out which people are likely to, that means if the gap is increasing or decreasing or too much erratic, they would get back to those parents and say, you need to do something about it. So this was one of those, again, the same core idea of you were trying to study sleep apnea and behavior and being more regular about that, suddenly translated over to an entirely different domain of childhood growth hormone therapy. So again, the thing is that, and this is one of my learnings, that the medical community, those who are dealing with growth hormone therapy and those who are dealing with sleep apnea, the two doctors will never think about some underlying problem as the same, right? The chronic this thing, because these entirely from medically, these are entirely different things from a treatment perspective, diagnosis perspective. But if you're looking from a therapy compliance perspective, it's essentially a human behavioral problem. So sometimes bringing a different perspective is kind of interesting. And I will just kind of stop here, and just one of these things that I want to make a point is that in general, I always think about this diagram that I've shown here as really as a three-dimensional diagram, that there is, coming back to my picture of episodic to continuous care, from a data perspective, that the more data that the medical system can have, or the provider system can have, about someone's life outside of when they're touching them, right? The more information can become available and better decisions can be made. But and it is becoming more and more, with whether it is wearables, with the apps or whatever else, right? Or maybe in an environment where that's not the case, at least even from cell phone. Imagine that, let us say, a mother is given the responsibility of reporting every week something like the children's height, or maybe every month children's height and weight or whatever else, and just keep sending it over a little app to the local clinic. Then at least if there's something going on, or maybe temperature is taken or whatever else, right? Something basic like that can help these things a lot, where it can be, problems can be detected before they happen. And that actually I think is a big promise that I see. Okay, I will stop, and any questions that we going to take that. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for this wonderful talk. So, in India, we have a peculiar problem that we go to the healthcare centers only when we are in a big trouble. So, how do we bring in this behavioral change of going from episodic to a continuous care?
Okay. So, okay. I think the problem that you're mentioning is, I won't even call it episodic to continuous. It's a problem of like preventive maintenance versus breakdown maintenance, right? It's like, do you take your car to the the car mechanic for oil change regularly, or do you wait till you're on the highway, your car breaks down and it is towed, right? In fact, the interesting thing is that classically we have treated our bodies more in the second model than the first one. That means you don't go to the doctor unless you fall sick, right? In fact, one of my personal lessons learned, so I moved to the US at the age of about 23. And one of the main lessons I learned was that before that, growing up in India that time, I used to, you see all those movies like Anand, all those movies, how cancer is a huge thing. That means a cancer diagnosis is a death sentence. But I learned in the US, not at that age, later on in life, that other than something like a pancreatic cancer, okay, it's not a death sentence. If you can get it screened early in life or early stage, then most cancers are actually treatable. right? So that is one of the best examples, cancers, that screening is so important. So for example, you know, I'm 60 plus. I've gotten my colonoscopy done twice. Okay. I know that most people in India don't even get colonoscopy done. When, I mean, it's, we have two doctors here. You guys can tell us that, I mean, what percentage of people get colonoscopy done? Which is such a simple thing, or, and it is so preventable. And very often people eventually discover it at a very late stage, and then that's that. So I think that, I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys can tell us what is it that is psychological block for people to not go get something like that done. Yes, Dr. Ganpati.
Of course, disclaimer, white hair. Now, in our anxiety to talk about preventive maintenance for the human body, please understand there is a very real danger that you will actually cause problems. Now, as one who has treated thousands of head injuries from 1975 onwards, we do CT scan. Unfortunately, the patient wants it for almost every patient, even if it's a mild concussion, but in my opinion, scan is not required. We pick up what we call incidentalomas. That is, we pick up meningiomas, we pick up low-grade gliomas, we pick up acoustic schwannomas, various types of tumor in the brain. Patient is absolutely normal. Autopsy findings published from the United States of America very clearly show several brain tumors in an 80-year-old, in a 90-year-old, in a 95-year-old. An analysis of this have seen an excellent quality of life till they were 80, 90, 95.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I've had my own relatives who the diabetes was discovered at the age of 80, 85, who lived till 95. In my generation, I told them to hell with your HbA1c, to hell with your cholesterol and triglyceride. You're 82 years old. You're going to live for another 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. Do what you want. Enjoy life. So please look at the other perspective.
Okay.
I'm not against Americans at all. But multinational companies, high pressure salesmanship, colonoscopy for everybody, breast cancer mammogram. Every year a mammogram was advised. JAMA has published papers showing follow-up from the Netherlands. I tried to get a teleradiology contract with Denmark. I couldn't, because Denmark did not have enough radiologists to report mammograms. Today, sir, there is scientific evidence, statistically significant evidence, that women who have under 20 mammograms from the age of 30 to 60 have a statistically significant p-value greater than 0.001, higher incidence of breast cancer than those who did not do mammograms. Today, from mammogram every year, you are advised mammogram once in 3 years, once in 4 years. We cannot discount the fact that multinational companies, high pressure salesmanship. I'm 74. I can get a master health checkup done every month if I want. I do a master health checkup at the appropriate time. I've had one colonoscopy done. I do not do a colonoscopy every 2 years. I've had one colonoscopy done. So I think there is something known as clinical wisdom, clinical judgment, which unfortunately is, we're all an endangered species. We're all disappearing from the face of the earth. Sir, I'm not against preventive maintenance. I'm all for colonoscopy. But there are studies which have shown, however innocuous a colonoscopy is done, there have been perforations of the colon during the procedure. Procedure-related morbidity. All this is available if you do a PubMed search. You'll get so many publications. Procedure-related morbidity is not zero. A chest X-ray, if you take a chest X-ray 10 times as part of your screening procedure, CT scans done for children repeatedly, 20-year follow-up has shown that they develop brain tumors. So use your clinical judgment.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good question, but when you say use your clinical judgment, you are the guys who will tell us what the clinical judgment is, because the rest of us are not qualified for that. Well, anyway, that's not my, I'm not a doctor of any that kind, so I'm not defending any particular medical practice. Yes.
Sir, I'm a PhD student with Professor Ramkumar. We are working with medical technologies. So my question is just an extension to what was asked previously. We have hospital stays wherein we say that it is an episodic event. So, can we think of models, AI based ML, that are so algorithmically strong that in countries like India, wherein we don't have a lot of people who, you know, generate data in their home stays, can we think of models, or are the people working on these kinds of models that can, be predictive with a high level of accuracy in terms of the 3-day or 4-day hospital stays itself?
Right. So I think that so there's a couple of different things, right? The example that I gave, the detailed example I gave the first time, had only to do with hospital stays, right? So basically those trajectories that I said, 7,080 patients and 8,000, those trajectories were basically from hospital stays. So you can do a fair amount of stuff from hospital stays. The thing I was talking about, the home part of it, or the rest of life is, so it all depends on what information collection device you have access to, right? So supposing someone has a smartwatch, well, smaller than a fraction of the population, you have a lot of data. But even for anyone who just has a cell phone, right, which is the easiest device to have, right? I think there are already quite a few apps, but also there is a need to have even more apps and so on, and tell people that if they can start reporting a little bit about themselves and maybe the family around them or something, then some data collection can happen, and that will go a long way. So again, the point is, do I need to know everyone's heartbeat every single day? For a young child, maybe not, right? Whatever else, right? Maybe once a week, once a month, or whatever else is being reported, but some degree of regularity starts giving at least some level of visibility as to what is happening in someone's life, and that will have value. Now, of course, how much benefit it will have, we need to start collecting the data and start doing more projects like this, and that is where we will then learn that how much of data is too much or how much data is not required. I think the point that Professor Ganapathy made, that how often should colonoscopy be done, right? I think that is very important. Yes, because we are going to face the pressure, as you said, from those wanting to make money out of the healthcare system, that we'll just keep getting the test done all the time or whatever else, right? So the appropriate regulations led by the medical community, by the qualified medical community, has to set up the right guidelines. But there's a fine balance. Doing it too often is bad, but not doing it often enough is also bad. So both of those things will be balanced. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, there is a question? All right. Okay. All right. Thanks. I guess we have one more speaker yet.
Thank you very much, Professor Srivastav, for such an insightful talk and for taking us through the journey of how different disciplines of engineering, starting from fluid dynamics to mechanical engineering to hydraulics to AI-driven diagnostics and machine learning, how we can leverage all these disciplines to get insights on different aspects of medical healthcare system. Now we will have a small tea break, and we should gather here by 4:45 p.m. So there is a tea or coffee just outside the hall, please. Welcome back, everyone. As we are heading towards the end of our event, I would like to now call upon our last speaker for today's workshop, Professor S.K. Mishra. Professor Mishra is a professor in endocrine surgery at Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Institute of Medical Sciences at Lucknow. He is also our distinguished visiting faculty at the Gangwal School. Professor Mishra's notable achievements include the establishment of the Department of Endocrine Surgery and the School of Telemedicine and Biomedical Informatics at SGPGIMS, Lucknow. Professor Mishra is going to talk about evolution of an institutional telemedicine program, 25 years of journey at SGPGI, Lucknow. Through his talk, he'll take us to the journey of telemedicine by sharing his extensive experience as a clinical doctor at SGPGI, Lucknow. Professor Mishra, please.
Okay, thank you. So I thank JSMST and especially Dr. Professor Verma and his colleague and his team, director, deputy director, and all the senior functionaries, and all the team involved in the COEs. This is a privilege again to meet you all after a gap of about a year or so. So I had a very pleasant feeling by staying in the campus amongst all of you and interacting with some engineering topics. So what I'm going to talk about is the way the program of telemedicine has developed in the institution, that is the GPGI. You might have heard from people, might have gone there and seen that also. But what I'm going to just tell you in this couple of minutes, about 40 minutes, is the story. There are a lot of images. I promise you don't get bored. And every image has a story behind it. And if you want more detail, you can go to the website, but I'll just give you a little bit of idea because otherwise it takes a lot of time. So, HGPJ institution, as you all know, I'll just give a little background of our institution and also the background how we started actually. Then introduce the activities that we are doing there, and the first encounter we had in telemedicine. Then how we started developing the infrastructure at HGPJ and carried out some POC projects. Then the national leadership that we took based on our kind of experience in this area and influencing the government and other stakeholders to take it forward. Then with knowledge base that we developed, we started supporting some of the international development agencies. We'll talk about a little of that. And what initiative we have taken for capacity development in this area and different organizational activities we have done, and then we conclude the topic. So the idea generated to work in telemedicine goes back to 1996-98, two subsequent gap up in 2 years. I visited a place called European Institute of Telesurgery, located in Strasbourg. So I'll show you a picture of the person who was established there. So that is a great stimulus. I went there not to learn telemedicine, but I went there to attend a course on my subject at endocrine surgery. And later on, in the year 2000, I was part of the Indo-French delegation for telemedicine, and where I could see some more centers and came across some legendary personalities who played a lot of role in my journey till now. And this is a gentleman you might have heard named Jack Meroska. You might have heard a transatlantic robotic surgery, telerobotic surgery, where a gallbladder was removed in a patient located in Strasbourg, and the robot was manipulated from a hotel in New York. He is the man, Jack Meroska. And the operation is called Operation Lindbergh. Now, who knows Lindbergh? Lindbergh is the pilot who first piloted an aeroplane across the Atlantic Ocean. In that name, this particular procedure has been named. It appeared in the journal Nature. And this gentleman is a surgeon, basically a laparoscopic surgeon, and he has revolutionized this concept of the technologies in surgery. And one of them is telemedicine and telerobotic surgery. And he is instrumental in establishing such kind of centers in 5 more continents. The next gentleman that I came across in 2000 is called Louis Laring. Louis Laring, when I met him, he was in this age. That itself gave me a stimulus. Now I think that if you can work till that age, why not I? He's no more, of course. 3 years back, passed away. He's considered as the father of European telemedicine. So he set up a European Institute of Telemedicine. The other gentleman made European Institute of Telesurgery. These 2 centers are very much kind of a stimulant for me to learn and thought of taking resolution to do something in this area. Toulouse, you might have heard, is the place where the Airbus aircraft is manufactured, and he is located in the University of Toulouse, and he is an anesthetist by profession. But he was instrumental in developing this SAMU. SAMU is that emergency transportation system in France. So he is the brain behind this thing. Then to get it approved by the government, he switched over from medical profession to politics. Then as soon as this project was launched, he came back again to medicine and continued the career and started on telemedicine program. And Toulouse is another place where the European Space Medicine Institute is there. And here they introduced this satellite-based portable satellite terminal, and they developed this portable telemedicine terminal. And that was also a stimulus for me to get back and work on this area. I'll just give the first decade of the kind of activity that you have done. Subsequently, of course, I'll not cover up so much things, no time. The booklet I have given you, kindly just go through that. It's a brochure that summarizes all these activities. In April 2000, we developed basic telemedicine platform with a mega grant of 6 lakh rupees. I'll tell you how you got that money. And with a basic desktop-based video conferencing system. Our first experience was with telesurgery, a conference. So most of the initial efforts are all for education and interacting with other institutions for teleeducation. And in the 2000 January, we got the first research grant as the principal investigator from the MIT, that is Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics, Government of India, to design and deploy telemedicine in a large congregation, that is the Mahakumbh Mela in 2001. So what I want to give the message to you, that I'm a doctor. So all our thought process was application oriented. This is the thing we have to achieve and how we can achieve. Then search for the partners in technological field. That time there was only one company who is working telemedicine called Online Telemedicine Research Institute based in Ahmedabad. Of course, that company broke after a few years and this company was closed. But initially you could get some support from there to launch some of this initial project. So technology was available. Whatever is available, you use that. For example, it was ISDN available that time for video conferencing. You use that. Subsequently, never imagined that the IP will come or the high-speed network of internet NKN will come. But whatever is available that time, we use that actually. So it's application-driven, using technology prevalent that particular point of time. Then another major project. So this Kumbh project gave us that confidence that we could deploy telemedicine in the banks of River Yamuna, where nothing is there. Before Kumbh and after Kumbh, it is just like a barren land. So you could deploy a ISDN-based telemedicine program and transmitting beautiful pictures from a microscope or transmitting real-time ECG and doing a video conferencing with 384 kilobit bandwidth. That gives a lot of confidence actually. And let me tell you also, some of these things could not have been possible without the cooperation of our ministries of IT and also the DOT. I always tell people, this is the government agency which always come forward to help you out, and always think about those kind of agencies where they're going to help you. And 2001-2005, this is the first major project that Professor Ganpati also has mentioned. The development of indigenous technology, the telemedicine software, was developed through this project, and this project lasted for about 5 years, where the software was developed by 2 CDACs, CDAC Pune as well as CDAC Mohali. CDAC Mohali software's name is eSanjeevani, which you now are using. That time it was Sanjeevani, later on become eSanjeevani. It was earlier point-to-point, then server client version, then subsequently became a cloud version. Now it is a cloud version. And another is called Mercury. So one is Sanjeevani, one is Mercury. Mercury is a Pune product, CDAC Pune product. So both of these projects are running, but eSanjeevani was categorized as the National Telemedicine Software System, which is known to all of you. So this was developed in the collaboration with 3 institutions, AIMS Delhi, PGI Chandigarh and HGPGI, and we validated their software. Then we deploy in 3 medical colleges at the test bed, and it was certified, and that is after that only they have started deploying in more places. In 2001, we took the first lead to organize a national telemedicine conference just to develop awareness. So in fact, only there are 100 odd people came, and all of them were signed with 100 rupees of kind of commitment to become members of the Telemedicine Society of India. So the TSI was established in the campus of our institute. So that is a historical kind of achievement for HGPGI. And now, of course, the TSI has several chapters and it conducts every year national conference, international conferences. And the office of the TSI still exists in the complex, the School of Telemedicine. In 2003, the first satellite terminal was given to the Apollo in Aragonda. In 2003, we asked ISRO to give support for ISRO bandwidth because that time we could not get project supported through ISTN. So we had to find a partner in Cuttack Medical College to deploy telemedicine systems, and we asked the satellite bandwidth for at least 3 medical colleges in Odisha that ISRO complied. At that time, ISRO was very much kind of proactive to promote telemedicine. So if you see the initial years of telemedicine, it was promoted by technical ministries. First to that is the MIT, next second thing is the ISRO. Otherwise, bandwidth we purchased from the DOT. DOT specifically did not come forward for any R&D activities or any awareness activities. In 2003, the government of AP recommended our program in the campus, which is PGI, to become a School of Health Informatics. And in that, the UP government has committed to support to development infrastructure. So this is again a remarkable kind of historical development in the part of Uttar Pradesh, where not only they gave money to have a small 6 lakh rupees to start desktop video conferencing system based tele-education, also they committed to support for a School of Health Informatics. And the same thing was converted to a National Resource Center with the project of MIT, about 5.16 crore, and then various facilities could develop. So all these things are projects supported development of the infrastructure. So once the infrastructure is there, then we develop ideas where you can apply these things. For the telepathology, teleradiology, tele-ECG, everything we could do it that. I mean, somebody asked a question on the ENT. ENT also is one of the very good applications for telemedicine, where you get an otoscope. It's a primary gadget, you get it with any compact telemedicine system. You put an otoscope and it can be connected with transmitting. Any specialty in medicine we talk about, it is all possible through apply telemedicine there. And this 2010, in 2007 actually we applied to so the experience that time we got actually, that was sufficient enough to design national projects. So the national project was designed for connecting medical colleges in the first phase, 50 medical colleges, and some of the medical institutions can become resource centers. So that is the project was presented in 2007. And I know one for the sitting here, Apollo was one of the competitor in that, along with Deloitte. So we competed. This is a competing grant actually, and we took the responsibilities to design this project nationally and scale it up. And of course, the TCIL got the TCIL did not get contract. ARNET got the contract for deployment. So we handled them and we launched this National Medical College Network project. So 2007 and 2010, 3 years. So we are busy with the ministry to develop this project. And that is the time when NKN was around coming up actually. Because NKN has really played a major role in transforming this high-end telemedicine application. Otherwise, this live surgery, etc., could not have been transmitted. So we started with PSTN, then we went, I'll see in some of the pictures, started with the PSTN, then ISTN, then fixed broadband, lease line broadband from 2 Mbps, then we went to satellite with 330 kbps bandwidth, then we come to high-speed network of 1 gigabit internet of NKN. And currently also that is going on. So this is the kind of sequence of event that has happened. And later on, of course, we found partners and we could carry out our activities in that. So basically what I want to say to the audience, it is not an engineering-driven initiative. It is a doctor-driven initiative. That means the application-oriented kind of initiative that has started. In that process, people are involved. They try to learn the technology. They try to partners in either vendors or to other kind of sources and to achieve the purpose. So that's the way actually the things have developed. So if you find some of the pictures where many of the complex infrastructure has been developed, it all has developed because of idea that you want to achieve this purpose, how do I can do it. So keeping the companies also involved and putting your mind and thinking about your process, so you could design this infrastructure. So, our institute always promoted us to think innovatively, think something outside the boundary of your specialty, and they have encouraged always to work in this area. That's the way actually how this super specialty institute has come up. We talk of my specialty, it was very kind of unusual specialty. So, a lot of support came from the institute to work in these kind of innovative areas. So, the concept of super specialty training also for the first time came in SGPJ. And in fact, all these corporate hospitals during that time, they got people from our place. So SGPJ became very popular because quickly they could produce a lot of the super specialty manpower for the corporate hospital around the country. And we got this thing major support from JICA through ODA, and huge amount of money in terms of equipment supply, and the building was supported by the government. And in that way also it came up very well. And we're the first to develop the culture of IT in the campus. That is very important. Any medical institution, I always tell them that find out some people who are really inclined to work in the field of IT. Our HIS could be developed in the campus with the CDAC, with the help of some of the doctors. There are only 3 or 4 doctors. So they were interested in some kind of IT. When we enter, we don't have any email facility in the campus. So we used to come to some place in the city to the NIC center to do the email. So that kind of environment this was started working, but some of them were very committed. So the HIS was developed in-house because of the commitment of the doctors. They worked with the CDAC engineers in the campus. So our HIS was 96 project started. Until 1998 was the beta version deployed. And commitment of our institute's director. Immediately as soon as it deployed and tested, and we were given a notice, within 3 days you switch over this system, otherwise you will not get any prescription slip. But that is the way actually the culture has developed. That's why I always say that we have to develop a digital maturity of a hospital. It is a known term nowadays actually. There is also criteria written there, what is digital maturity of the hospital. I was just talking to Professor Verma that how you can really think about digital hospital. That you have to design at the stage of building construction. If you not put a pipe there, you cannot get the images, the pipe. So that is very important to design the hospital. At that stage only decide what should be the network of your hospital. Then somewhere in the early development of the Sushrut, there are some headaches, and initially it was the client server, then it is ultimately now what you get is the cloud version of the Sushrut. So all these stages, we never ask for our proprietary. Now, the proprietary is owned by them. So it's a kind of gift to the CDAC. That is the interest that we had ourselves, that we work with them. Similarly, same way also, we talked about telemedicine, and this is the first institution to think about research and development in telemedicine, and that's the reason why the Government of India considered this our project to make it a national resource center with that kind of activities taking place, because we had a first 2 floor of the building ready with the Government of AP, and Government of AP released 5 crore rupees in the year 2003 itself to start the infrastructure. And once we got a national resource center project, then we could convince the Government of AP to give another budget for another 2 floors to accommodate all these activities there. So now it is a 4-floor building, 25,000 square feet of the covered area with all air conditioned and all our network inside. And so total investment that we have done now is 30 crore rupees for the construction, which in 2010 completed, and another 30 crore we got it through extramural grants. Now this is sustained all along on the extramural grant. We don't get any budget from the institute. But after I left 2021, there is little stress. So now we are talking to the institute on how to make it a mainstream, so that let the government support to this initiative. Now the first encounter, this is the first encounter of telemedicine. Somehow you'll find there will be a lot of reflection of my story. So please don't take it otherwise, because all these activities cannot occur with one person. One person may take the idea and drive the things, but always require partners. Telemedicine we cannot practice without a partner, whether it is a patient, whether it is another institution, everything. So here we didn't have anything, and we didn't have any money, but we had this idea that I got from the European Institute of Telesurgery, that we transmit the live video interactively. And this is a minimal access endocrine surgery organized in 1999. So how to transmit? So here, gentlemen, you might have known about ITI, Indian Telephone Industries. This company is running in losses, so they are saying that may close, but this is the company, they had the license for Beacon companies. Beacon is no more now available, it's closed. Israel-based video conferencing company, and it's a desktop-based video conferencing. There's a card inside that actually. But that is not the issue. The issue that I always tell people, look at the output. Even with the minimum kind of instrument that we have, you can get a good output. Just imagine this desktop system with 6 BRI ISDN card for video conferencing. We could transmit the live video coming from our theater, converting those days this analog video to digital format. There is a codec behind these things to compress this to make it digital format to transmit across using 384 ISDN. So this is, I can see just a mic, ordinary mic and a webcam. Here the fact that I want to message is the output, the picture quality, everything is excellent with this desktop system. And this money we wanted from Chief Minister, who came to inaugurate this thing, first telesurgery workshop, to give minimum 6 lakhs rupees, out of which 3 lakh went for the ISTN. Because those days ISTNs are very expensive. And 3 lakh we spent on this desktop system of video conferencing. With that, we started our tele-educational activities subsequently, and every 2 years we used to do that actually. Then, as I told you, that infrastructures are developed based on the projects. This is the first project which is dealing with the public health. This is a project done in 2000. Here, this is my office to start with, then space. So my office, all my furniture are replaced with this company's equipment, and this was not within any money. So ordinary PSTN, we are a modem. We use Yahoo Net Meeting to have video conferencing. It's a small kind of window you can see here, that is a Yahoo Net Meeting, and we could receive ECG signals using this PSTN, public switch telephone network, from a place called Kala something, on the way to trekking, on the way to Kailas, Kalapani. Kalapani was the last point where the PSTN telephones are there, or BSNL. So you could transmit. So the point that I want to drive is that to test the hypothesis or to prove the concept, it is not that important that you don't get a good wave of ECG, but we could see the signals are coming there. We could be able to talk. Because for audio conferencing, you don't require much of bandwidth. That itself is so important. Even today, audio telemedicine is also recognized as one of the best practice of telemedicine. So next we ventured into the satellite-based system, because satellite was available free of cost. But unfortunately, with a lot of our persuasion, we could not get more than 334 kilobit. ISRO was giving satellite to many corporate hospitals also. And here we experimented with some telesurgery, so transmitting some of these signals coming from Cochin. So used to have monthly session, cases discussion. So one of the cases we discussed is problem of a parathyroid problem. So which you could mentor them to do the surgery remotely with the use of satellite based. Used to get a little bit of break in between, but somehow we could manage. And this patient was operated twice. So third time we could mentor them and you could operate them. This is the first reported case. After the Sabrimala, Dr. Ganpati, the Sabrimala case, they put an intercostal tube drainage from, what is that called? Sabrimala's temple. From there, Ayappa temple. So they developed hemothorax, and with the remote consultation with Amrita, so they could put a intercostal tube. That's the first reported case of telementoring. And here it is the operation of parathyroid done through satellite bandwidth. So that was the advantage for our country, where many of our government institutions are really helped for initial practice of telemedicine. Then we thought of what can you do, because we don't have the test of IP. All of you know that everybody knows about how IP internet protocol systems are really so kind of good nowadays. So those days are just coming up, and we tested that how to do an intra-hospital video transfer. So you can transfer the video from operation theater or anywhere, and you can transfer with the whatever fixed broadband we have with us. So we experimented that with using ordinary kind of security camera that we use here and put it here. And this is a Java kind of software system. It have only 4 or 5 functions. One is up, down, right, left, and one is zoom. These are only 5 that you use any security camera, you can do it remotely. And this is the experiment we did it without any money with us. Whatever equipment we have from our projects earlier, so those equipments we use it, and we did this experiment. And with this experiment, we could transmit a live surgery from our operation theater to, using satellite IP, to Bangalore. There is an Intel made conference in 2005 or 6. Very good pictures in the big screen. So that this kind of, and as we have kept on working on this thing, we tried to publish also. This is very important to publish, because I remember when the first elementary experiment was published, it was just a short communication. But we got requests from other journals. Can you not change the words or change the style and contribute to our journal? Because in a developing country, such kind of telementoring was not heard of actually. So that is very important what Dr. Ganpati was saying. Whatever you do, try to publish, and that gives you the recognition actually. Next, we ventured into how can you do a kind of, we are academic institution. So we wanted to contribute our knowledge, our skill. So I have to develop an intra-hospital knowledge network. That's exactly what I was talking to Professor Verma. When I was here, that time I had a discussion with Mr. Napri that how to design the network so that you can practice anything in the future that comes in your mind. So this is the intra-hospital knowledge network, and these are all 1 gigabyte fiber. So this you can transmit. You use a kind of portable systems. You go take it to OPD, take it to what's the duty room of your patients, and same thing to go to the different department seminar room, or you go to the operation theater. Everything is possible through these things. These are all we have done it in our own hand actually. So that is very important for all of us to understand. You can make in your own hospital. You can see the beautiful pictures. And what you're using is the hospital IP, your hospital network. Your HIS required HIS network for hospital. The same network we're using it here. So you don't have to spend money in the network. In fact, when ILBS requested me to just advise them of something, I tell use the one network, make it a big pipe, use everything in that. Use HIS, use telemedicine, use security, use your management, everything through that. So everything is possible with IP days. Of course, security is a factor, you have to take care of it. But once it is IP, then security is open. You cannot do it. Do whatever it is, but still there is risk. So the point that I want to drive is the technology is neutral. Wherever you want it, your doctors will want, they want in the OPD seminar room, where it is, you can do it. Same equipment. This portable system, why we developed? Because with the 2 or 3 portable systems, you can do so many things. Like in Tripura, they have done mobile telemedicine. Use 5 or 6 mobile systems and take it forward to different regions. So this kiosk, US hospitals also has this kind of kiosk, not the sophisticated kiosk, very fancy looking. Every ward, every private room has a kiosk. These are all connected to the hospital network. And this is another experiment we did it. So here, of course, Stryker has the dedicated systems, but we improvise that actually. So that's exactly as I told you. It is the surgeon-driven or doctor-driven some of the initiative where we chip in what they don't have. We added that actually in that. So this is developed in 2010. These are all analog cameras. Now subsequently, you know, the technology has improved. So we have HD cameras, 4K cameras. So in surgery, visualization is very important, especially in image-guided surgery. So switch over completely to 2009 for a digital full HD camera of 1080p. So for that, a very expensive venture, then you have to write a grant to get that money. So that's what we did it. Unfortunately, you might have heard about the fire accident recently in GPJ. So this is the OT got burnt. Very devastating actually. So again, I request in a hospital you're making, make your fire systems very, very stringent. Can you imagine off the record I can say, you don't have a CFO in our institute, fire officer. I mean, this is very important. Anything can do, spark and everything. So you have to investing money. So please invest in fire security also. And then we did little research. So here again research, as I told you, again application oriented. So we understood what the Stryker systems are giving actually. Some of the companies that produce integrated systems. So they understand what is the thing. Then we found out all these networks. Then we talked about the kind of bandwidth that would develop it, and we improvised these things. Currently, any equipment being used in the preoperative area now being gone to the operation theater areas. Ultrasound, MR, you know, hybrid theaters. They are MR along with surgery theater. So we have to understand all these things. Then, based on this knowledge, we helped to deploy one of the digital theater in Meerut Medical College with 1/3 cost of what the commercial companies are providing. So that is the strength of us, that our knowledge can be translated to at least give some of the options cheaper version in our country actually. Then we experimented on telementoring. Can you use the mobile? Now the speed has come up, your 5G, 4G, or that time it was not 5G to 3G. So we could use this head mounted camera and taking the picture, because in a motion camera, we can grasp the pictures. So we sort of, if this aerial drivers, they can take these pictures, why not? We can use it for our own purpose. So we did it. So basically, we got the idea from our environment and applied to our own purposes. We could do that actually. In that, we could transmit them these pictures, because what happens, the OT camera, when you put it inside, then it is a diffuse picture. But with this GoPro camera, so you could focus in that area, right? So then we could do it in the Wi-Fi version or whatever wireless protocol we are following it. Initially, it was restricted because it will interfere with the diathermy, but later it is approved. So we use that, and these are all kind of tablets, Panasonic tablets, ordinary tablets. So you use it, and we found it's quite feasible. So you can do really miracles by helping other surgeons less experienced in that. And all these things are experimented because we develop infrastructure. So that's what is important. Unless you develop infrastructure, you cannot really experiment. Unless you do the experiment, we cannot make people convince in your team, okay, this is doable. Then we went for our integrated immersive lecture theater. As you see here everything is thought driven. Nobody has advised us. We were asked for a consultant, they were charged in lakhs. This we did ourselves. This screen, what we see is that we see in IMAX theaters. This is a curvilinear screen. It is not a straight screen. And there are 3D projectors here. That double two projectors. And there are 3 projectors, big one here. They converge the image to get this entire projection. That means you see a surgical cinema. What is happening in the operation theater, here there are many actors, you see them here, what other person is doing, what other person is doing, like that. So that kind of concept we created here. And here is the, we spent around 8 crore rupees in designing this integrated immersive lecture theater in 3D projection system in that. So then we developed another concept, like for oncology. In oncology, you require kind of inputs from many specialties. For a patient, you require electronic medical record, you require MRI picture, you require a nuclear medicine scan, you require pathology report. So how this can be in the same frame? So there you develop this concept, you develop this large video wall, and let all the specialists sit down here, and the patient is presented from remotely, and all the images are there. There will be an operator here, and there is a kind of video controller in the behind, and they can just bring it. I want a CT, the CT is brought to the main screen. Like that, you could do it actually. This I learned from France, not France, from Germany, a place called, what is it called? Part of East Germany, I'm forgetting the name. So, yeah, Leipzig, yeah. So, they also have this e-tumor board kind of thing. So, this, whatever I could see, other places I had to come back and find out where to get the money to make these things actually. So then this is the big screen you can see here. In the same screen you have the CT scan, you have the people sitting there and they are discussing about the patient of cancer, and inputs are taken from everybody. Then we develop concept of telepresence. You might have heard about surgical telepresence. So now it is done in-house. You cannot allow everybody to go to operation theater to watch operation happening. You cannot just go and climb on the surgeon to watch it. So we developed the concept. Once you got to digital theater, you have all the camera fitted there, and you can get the pictures, and you can get the picture from the abdominal wall. You can take picture of the laparoscopic instruments, and all the pictures can be controlled by a video controller and brought it to the main screen here. So we developed this surgical telepresence suite here, and we e-learning suite near the OT healthcare theater complex. So here you can organize some of the workshop, and you could transfer them the live surgical procedures. And this also we did it our own idea. This thinking process was changed. Now, next in the line is this mobile systems, the portable systems. As I told you, in the Toulouse, I saw these portable systems. So I decided the problem for us is, nowadays you get all devices, IoTs. It was not there that time. So they have to buy these bulky things. But somehow the concept was tested, and this also we put it in the field test, and it really worked out. And some of the companies have, by the time some companies have come up, and now they have now marketing as ML for you, this thing. Okay. Then we went for the another spectrum of mobile telemedicine that we designed in a bus. And in the bus, bandwidth is a problem. Where to get bandwidth? We took WiMAX. Those days, WiMAX promised a lot of bandwidth. We could not. Then we went for a satellite. But on first satellite did not work. Though it did not work, but we got a lesson. We could convince the ISRO. No, it's not possible. I mean, Dr. Ganpati also knows, Arvind ISRO knows, everybody has this mobile unit, and satellite was given to all of them. Everybody has removed those satellites, where the last person still it is there like a ghost. Just to tell people that don't put satellite. Of course, now it is 5G and other things not required. But this we designed to looking at, is it possible? What you see is here, it's all inside the bus. Inside the bus, you have designed this entire telemedicine systems, and you have a diagnostic section behind. This bus came to the campus. Few of you must have seen this thing actually. So what I want to say, this is also infrastructure we developed, not by commercial purchase, designed ourselves. Again, a thinking process. Then whatever experience we have got it from out of all these years of experience, naturally we came into the help to all international agencies to deploy telemedicine. ISRO, one of them is ISRO. We have traveled with them to many of the centers. Then we introduced these things in many of these centers in located areas where there is religious places. Government of India wanted to put telemedicine in religious places where satellite was supported. So you deploy a lot of these satellites in different religious places, and also in Kumbh also it was done. And many of the religious places like in Puri Jagannath and other places, first is of course Sabrimala. Later on, this proposal was accepted by the Ministry of Health. Then satellite bandwidth was given by the Health Ministry, sorry, ISRO. And if you're interested, you can go through these links. So a lot of details are given here using this in Kumbh Mela. Then other thing that you have done is helping the MEA to deploy some of the projects overseas. You might have heard about Pan Africa project. It's a very big project, 500 crore rupees project. That time our ex-president Abdul Kalam, he went and promised them for e-education, e-learning, and many of these IITs are also part of this network. So we are from the health, and here we could transmit some of the things to interested countries. Not every SAR country they participated, but Afghanistan, one country, they participated very rigorously. And Pan Africa was based on just only e-learning, not consultation. Here, there are majority of hospitals are corporate hospitals. Only 2 are government, that AIMS Delhi and ourselves. Here it is streaming technology, where you give lectures, and lecture schedules are decided by the TCIL, who is the executing agency, and this went on for 5-6 years. So this NMCN, you might have just heard about that. NMCN is a very, very good project. It started in 2010. It's still running. Again, backbone is NKN with a high-speed network. And here, the entire project was designed by us and deployed by ARNet. And this has been now expanded. And now they're focusing on only creating contents and putting in the website. The National Institute of Health and Family Welfare, they are implementing this website of Sakhyam. The doctors donate content and is reviewed and then stored there actually. This is the thing that's going on. You are familiar with this picture of NKN, and this is the configuration of the National Knowledge Network based NMCN project. These are different medical colleges in part of that and the resource centers. And this is a picture of how the lecture theatres are connected to each other simultaneously to sharing their knowledge contents. And then the part of NKN was also consultation. So some of the institutions also took part in the consultation process. These are the different educational modules that are being used in the NMCN network. Then ultimately the future vision of the NMCN was this way, and which is still now in different phases. You might have heard about this wellness centers and aspirational districts, state medical colleges, then ASA workers. All these things are now part of becoming an NMCN. Now Minister of Health is collaborating with the health system development institutions across all the states. They are implementing the e-Sanjeevani project. So it is reaching out to all these health and wellness center, which is nowadays called Arogya Kendra by the government. So this is what is happening with a small start in 2010. Now it is 2024 and it is going on still. This is thing I think all of you are familiar with, because we always take at the waterside COVID. COVID has made all of us aware that telemedicine is doable, telemedicine is trustable, telemedicine can be done in whichever form we want to use and whichever money that you want to use it. So people have done telemedicine, they redefined telemedicine definition, even a WhatsApp video, audio telemedicine, everything was done during COVID time and everything was accepted by government. But only thing that has happened is the first time a telemedicine practice guidelines was launched in 25th of March 2020. That really helped many of our enthusiasts that are to promote telemedicine and convince doctors that to practice telemedicine. This we could do it in 24 hours time. In SGPGI, we could set up this e-COVID OPD setup in the School of Telemedicine building in the first floor, because OPD was completely sealed. So this telemedicine building, one floor was converted to the e-OPD and all the departments were asked. So all of our systems, we have all the facility with us, IT facilities, so we just deploy it. Within 24 hours, we launched it. And this went on during the COVID period. This is a scenario of that. So all the consultations for the follow-up patients were done through this, and new patients were just given assistance so that they can come back when the COVID disappears. So this is the thing that happened in many hospitals, and this has really helped people to understand how really telemedicine works, what is the utility, and we are all beneficiary of that. This particular project now is known to all of you. Now the AVDM and all these things are happening, and all these centers are now having our numbers. So you have this connection up to PSC. Now the concept of connected health is coming up, and once this is being adopted, you will find from PSC people can connect it to all major hospitals in the government sections and also corporate they can go it. So there is need for corporate and government kind of collaboration to cater the patient's need. So how that is possible, that is again big question. And this is a picture of e-Sanjeevani. I think Dr. Ganpati has already talked about it. I didn't want to repeat it. You go to the dashboard, you'll find the number of consultations happening. But we're a kind of node. We're a node which serves, is a hub and spoke model. So we serve about 86 nodes. So like SGPGI, there are 18 such hospitals. They give services to the peripheral centers. So here we have these MBBS doctors, and this is the doctor, they give the consultations using this thing, and it's all cloud driven, and it's all stored in the cloud of CDAC outsourced to some agency. This is a project that is the first time in the country called Smart City of Telemedicine. In that, we have installed 97 kiosks across the Lucknow commissioner. Right? And here you find one technician and all nurses that have been trained, and they're taking care of the minimum basic facilities like the vital signs, blood pressure, etc. All these things. And there is also provision of point of care testing for about a couple of tests that are also being in process. This is the kind of switchboard center in the GPJ Lucknow. So they have this dashboard to, again, same way like Sanjeevani, this is being every day monitored. This is again a project which is just launched. This is called the Tele ICU project. This is supported by a CSR from Power Corporation, where SGPJ is critical care medicine, the emergency medicine department, giving these services to 7 medical colleges ICUs. So this is a live going on with the Gorakhpur Medical College ICU. So this just started, and it is all happening in a very short span. We'll find the impact in a couple of months' time, actually. We have been required to support the international agencies like WHO, ITU, and World Bank to help them to support some of this deployment in other countries. Out of this, I'll just quote one country which is not known to many of you also how this country is. There's a DPR Korea, called North Korea. So very difficult to travel there and do the work. 5 times visit as a WHO consultant. And this is the best telemedicine in the CR region. And they organized a conference in the regional WHO conference in Pyongyang, and to say that this is the best telemedicine in a country, so people should adopt it actually. So that's the kind of happiness that we get it when we see the impact of our work actually. This is the training program we are being using it. It was capacity development both in North Korea as well as our own state also. We have trained people from 4 states, both IT as well as medical professionals. Our courses that we discussed in the morning did not really take up so well. So again, we'll get back to see that how this can be done. So here, other international networks we are part of this thing, Asia Pacific Area Network, Central Asia Network, BRICS groups. So everywhere we have some role to play, saying that at least to promote what India is doing, to let it know in international scenario actually. And as capacity development, I told you, is top of the priority of us. And I just told you that we have really kind of failed. Let me accept that. Maybe we're a little more premature to start with. I'm sure this has a scope. We'll again revisit it and start again. So we have taken leadership in organizing many conferences, workshops regularly basis, not for only ourselves, also for other organizations like even USA and IEEE and all these things. So we have effort to develop awareness, bring in kind of stakeholders to get a platform to discuss. Intellectually, we have contributed certain things which are very specific to the developing countries. Like in the telesurgery, we have given them our experience, how we can do it actually. You talk of telesurgery, people think it's a very big way. You require a big setup, big money and all these things. So we have given our experience that we can do such kind of telesurgery interventions that are helpful to a developing country. Here also same thing. Here also we told them, define what is telemetry. Telemetry is just not during procedure. It's the pre-procedure, inter-procedure, and post-procedure, right? So everything concerns about telemetry. As you operated a difficult case, the post-op care also has to be mentored. So this is a list. You can find on the website more detail about that. So to conclude, SGPJ had visualized the impact of digital technology in the health and plunged into the research, development, and deployment of health ICT. But as our driven mindset is towards application, as I told you, many of the initiatives have been translated into national initiatives, like the HIMS, NMCN, National Telemedicine Services, etc. With the digital culture in the hospital, ICT adoption and automation of services, that really has taken up with this kind of culture in the institutes. Knowledge base so developed, put to use nationally as well as globally. Intersectoral collaboration with the DOT, ISRO, Minister of Health, MEA, and WHO has made our effort known in other part and also helped in deploying telemedicine across the country. Infrastructure so developed will meet the need for future research, teaching and training, and also influence other medical institutions. So this act as influencer. People who visit, they always appreciate this thing. And it is open to everybody. You want to develop your kind of research facilities, you come and use that facility. We have agreement with IIT Kanpur. So you want to do AI-based research, come down, get your students. You have enough space for them to give them sitting capacity with all equipment, etc. So with that, I'll end my presentation. So please come and visit these facilities and look at the thing that we have done actually. Did I cross the time? It's okay. I had to understand kind of pictures and story.
I've had the privilege of visiting the center 3 times, 4 times, I think. This looks very simple, nice, beautiful photographs. A phenomenal amount of work must have been done by you. I can understand. I think it's incredible that you are able to do this almost single handed. I really think you deserve a fantastic applause for this.
Join us to design some good projects. We have all the infrastructure, anything you want to do with it. Lot of folks work together. Not like to just tell you what happened. It's something beautiful. It's a kind of good thought going on in the minds of many people. Many of them are interested. Second, center, development control center. You know, these deliveries are done by what assistant. They have been trained to be delivery. These are things not monitored. So they have been given some training and they are also deliver. Any problem during process, I have to mentoring starts and 3, 4, 5, 4. So that applies not only service, but any kind of procedure. So how can we really mentor this process? Why the business is very because was said, preventive better than in finance is preventive. So here I just want to understand. Can you make some kind of available? Students are available. Can't there persons to monitor. Dashboard, other yes. All we can have in this. I would available function. There are any and during delivery, idea is ask the bank assistant to use a web camera, ordinary web camera with the band, right? And connect to the record in the surgery, to the mobile phone, and you monitor it here. You means the damage surgery that way. See, the damage is covering, you don't have any angles, constantly. So you tell them to cut up the side there, yes, and see your monitor delivery. And advise the procedure. Oh, this customer seeing before the problem, you do this way. And if at all you have to refer it at a particular point of time, there's enough time to get the transport. The only thing is that requires a well planned project, well planned project, and it's such kind of project as a thing that we can get off, designing this thing. So that concept I can test it. Even without knowing this thing, you can test it. Even from the concept, no problem. What do we test it? But that can be done with a direct impact. Amateur concept, same thing, it is the control service. These operating companies, right? Standard surgery, the kind of pre-surgery can be mentored. Okay, the extra handling, that's what you get in the book actually. That telementoring doesn't mean that during procedure. Go to the definition of telementoring. Always talk about procedure, during procedure. Our concept I put in that book is starting from a disease that you have diagnosed. Can you diagnose that specifically? Look at not Kanpur, look at not Delhi or Lucknow. Look at Africa. Look at those countries where nothing is there. Look at isolated islands where you cannot just reach. Can we just really and internet there? Yeah. Now with web-based internet coming out remote. But always you talk about remote areas. Tell the government bring the first 3 companies are there. Starlink, Geo and Bharti. So let them bring down the cost. So all these countries, you can have Ladakh and Himachal, Northeast, everything you can really talk. It is still about the next. The eyesight is not able to pick up language. You get that? So can we do that? You can make any surgeon. One of the experiments that we did, the general surgeons, they have been trained in endocrine surgery. 7-year experiment, 7 years. And you could prove that the complications that I get out of a current surgery, at the end of 7 years or 5 years, they want the same complications. Andy, Dr. Mitzi. Head injuries. You have done that also in head injury, also in laxative. Yes, manage. Fix for mindset. People think head injury is a big thing. The head injury, there will be hematoma. But don't get panic about it. Yeah. So even you have seen also, you have so many pictures of the eye signs. So all these things, clinical science also will help you. Which patient can be managed locally, which patient can be managed. That itself is also big help to people who are living in remote areas. So all these things I think we should now think about in IIT Kanpur in telemedicine program. So that requires, sit down all of us, design a project, ask for the grant, and then get demand. One project you know very well that for mine, that you have designed the telemedicine in a boat. But many of the civilizations live in the banks of the river. Brahmaputra, 18 districts are in the Brahmaputra island. They never design that kind of thing. Very India central. Backwater of Kerala. This boat project is requires funding. So, enough places to look at your environment, whatever it says, all this, that's good. And this impact is kind of assured before deployment.
Thank you very much, Professor Mishra, for taking us through the journey of telemedicine and digital health from SGPGI Lucknow, and for guiding us that how innovative thinking can change the lives of the people. We don't really need huge huge money for making a change, but simple and innovative thinking can do a lot. With this, I would now request Professor Sandeep Verma, Professor in charge of the Gangwal School, to conclude the event and hand over the memento as a token of love to our esteemed guest speakers. Professor Verma, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deepti. I'd like to thank all three speakers for fantastic lecture and very illustrative lectures. Non-specialists like us could follow and could also feel the impact of telemedicine in day-to-day lives. And I think what Dr. Mishra, Professor Srivastav, and Professor Ganpati showed, the experiences over these decades. Say SGPGI came in 1988, and the way you have matured till date. I think the expectation with Gangwal School will be that the technology would mature faster. And with such mentors as all of you, I think as and when we get critical mass of doctors, we'd be on our way to something really special, as well as Professor Mishra pointed out, look beyond the region, beyond the borders of the country, and that would definitely be one of our endeavors. So thank you all very much for your excellent morning session, where we had a good discussion on how we can create these courses, little workshops for telemedicine, and of course a delightful afternoon with your very illustrative lectures. Thank you also very much for coming here, and we'd like to invite one by one so that we can at least show our gratitude to you by sharing with you a bit of memory that you can take back home from us. So maybe I can come down. You don't have to. Well, that I cannot do, but you can you can stand next to me. So let us put it that way. So please, Professor Ganpati, may I request you? Professor Mishra, please. So we close this session by thanking all who are present here, and also would like to acknowledge great help from our task force chair, Professor S. Ganesh, and our colleague from our health center who has been here, and I think we had a great time. And Dr. Mishra already left. So then finally to Dr. Deepti for creating this whole program for the day, interacting with all our speakers and making sure along with Ms. Shiroli Anand that the logistics are all in place. Satyam and all colleagues, Ajit, who have been part of this. Although it appears like a small workshop with 3 speakers, but what goes behind is certainly commendable. And I think I give all of them a big hand for helping me out here. So thanks a lot. And audience, I hope you learned something new today. And we close with these words. Thank you so much.